can't probably. What is the purpose of this then? No worries. Okay. So, as we were discussing yesterday about, we started with ethics and we were discussing about a lot of segments per se. So, we had arrived at this specific dimension, which was associated with the consequences of ethics, the positive and we can suggest the negative consequences of ethics. So, yesterday I was also about to share about ethical nihilism. We discussed till ethical universalism. So I discussed with all of you that there are three types of ethics, and in the process I shared that when we are discussing about the three types, the first one being like the ethical relativism, and after the ethical relativism, the second dimension which I discussed was associated with ethical universalism, and the third is associated with ethical nihilism. Now, ethical nihilism, when we are speaking about it, what does it imply? So, as you know, nihilists, they have a tendency to negate everything. They do not approve of anything. They tend to negate everything for that matter. So, when we are discussing about ethical nihilism, in this you will find that the nihilists will negate the existence of ethics as a subject itself. Many of you will be very happy listening to it. You'll be like, ha ha, good, only such a tough paper, or maybe like one subject less for UPSC preparation, right? So initially you love the nihilists for speaking like that. So nihilists, like, they believe that ethics has extreme moral relativism. Extreme moral relativism. What does this extreme moral relativism mean? Means my moral understanding is very different, or can be very different from the moral understanding of other individuals, right? So in that situation, they think of everything in negative sense. So very true, that's there. So when we are speaking of the nihilists, you will realize that they believe that human behavior is highly unpredictable. We cannot think about how human behavior can possibly work upon. So with respect to this, when we are talking about it, so it's good that you are doing this to the chat. I wanted more pura open session, just to the open one. I read open, dismissed मैं देखती ही नहीं हूँ. मैं सारे के सारे chats देखती हूँ. So just ऊपर ऊपर का category. I mean, no, I mean, like, you just open, I'll tell you. देखना, ये फर्स्ट ओपन, हाँ यही ठीक है, इसको बड़ा कर दो स्क्रीन. Yes, that's it. And I will make this one as full screen now. Yeah. So when we are speaking about this thing, right now there is very heavy rain, so I can't attend. Oh, okay, Aditya, I wish there was something that could have helped you out. There was rain even in Delhi, but luckily not in this area, because I was not carrying an umbrella. So yesterday I told you to read the second ARC Gist and Subarao. Second ARC baad mein, not right now. Sushmit, okay? Don't get into reading the second ARC immediately, okay? A novel and story book की तरह क्या पढ़ना है? जी हाँ, बिल्कुल. Start Subarao like that. Don't be under the pressure to memorize in the first reading. In the first reading, get exposed to things. Just get aware of things. That what is the author talking about? Read 30 pages without any pressure of memorizing or understanding, just to get exposed. Bit by bit, you will start understanding it. Relativism, Godavari, is associated with comparison. Yesterday, do you remember we discussed about ethical relativism, whereby we discussed how ethics is relative to time, place, and person. So that's what relativism is all about. When we compare something with respect to it. Initially, this is what will happen for Han and majority of the students. Initially, things will bounce from your head because you have never been hardcore humanities student and a student who's thinking. Most importantly, a person who's continually thinking. So this subject actually encourages you to think, and there'll be new technical words, new technical jargons. It's like a standard 10th student suddenly getting exposed to organic chemistry and will be like, what was that? So it's just the same thing. You have never been exposed to such a discipline. That's why the sense of uncertainty is there. But when you start with it, Abhishek, that was for beginners, that I said that if someone is starting by themselves, then they can read those chapters. But truth is, the entire Byju's book is good. Just one chapter which was not so important was ethics for ministers. Okay, except that everything was important. And second ARC, just start reading it little later, especially when we are dealing with the second last chapter. Okay, right now, and second last chapter will need this quotation from second ARC quite repetitively, quite frequently. This is what I can say. So Biswa, you can't hear anything. I don't know how to fix it, because I cannot fix the technical dimension, and I believe all your friends are hearing properly. So just try to refresh, just refresh, Biswa, if you can hear me. Everyone else can hear this. So I know that instead of reading people like the book, you must be finding the PPT very easy, you must be finding the lectures very easy. So the lecture is the, like, linking bridge. The lecture fixes the basics. The lecture is something which is introducing you to the basics, that this is how you're supposed to think, this is how you're supposed to process the information, that is how you start getting exposed to the game, right? So you can just be confident about that. Yeah, code of conduct for ministers is the dimension which I'm saying, that you don't need to pressurize yourself to read that. That can be probably the last chapter you read. Okay, start with the chapter related to ethics and human interface, whereby there is ethics in public and private relation, determinants of ethics, okay, source of ethics, all those dimensions are given. And then after that, human values is given. So just start with those chapters, initial chapters. Don't be under pressure, just try to read 30 pages, that's it, without any pressure of memorizing and understanding. The funniest thing is that in first reading we want to become experts. How is that possible when we don't have any background of such a like discipline? Psychology, Sahil, you can read attitude, aptitude, and emotional intelligence. When those chapters are going on, then this weekend start reading the psychology NCRT. Okay, but presently, first finish the book which is associated with ethics and human interface. Fine, I believe all that is fine with all of you. So now, when we are talking about this given dimension, well, morals and ethics, well, Lokesh, ethics are broader, they are universal, they are general principles which give us what is right, what is wrong, what ought to be done, what ought not to be done. Whereas morals are personal choice, how we understand the ethics, what we choose to do. So, like ethics will say, this is right and this is wrong. Be honest, do this. This is something which is based on truth. We will choose how we want to exercise truth, how we want to exercise honesty. How, like, so in regular situations, we'll be honest people, but when it will be exam and a friend is asking for some kind of cheating or some kind of hint, then we will not shy away from sharing it. We don't want to disturb our friendship. So that's what it is all about. Okay, so that's how morals are individual ethics. That is how you can consider it, is more like individual ethics, and ethics are more like social morality. It is more associated with society's understanding of right and wrong. Okay, now, yeah, Baiju's book is Subbarao. I mean, you should pay attention to the name of the author. No, it's not any regular book that is given to you. Subbarao and Roy Chaudhary's book was endorsed by Baiju's, and like they started distributing the book to the students. Otherwise, the book is available like that also on Amazon. Even without Baiju's endorsing it. Imagine. So it's a good book. It's a standard book. You can read it. Okay. Um, Now, with respect to this, as all of you are able to understand, let us go ahead. So, I mentioned chapter 3, 4, 5, 9, 12, 19 for beginners. That anyone who is struggling, those are the basic chapters to get introduced to. But I think that as you are getting exposed to the topics, you can first start with the first chapter. After that, you can go ahead with it. Okay. So, Anurag, the keywords are always the game changer. Always remember, when we are talking about values, values are associated with what should be there, what should be done. Whereas morality is my personal choice, what I would like to do, what is right according to me. Values are guiding me what should be done. Are you getting it? So remember the keywords. They are already given in the PPT, and I have repeated it at least 4 times yesterday. Today is the 5th time. All right. Now, so now with respect to this, as we are further moving ahead, okay, in this given dimension, let me first explain this to all of you, and then you'll get a brief idea. ये कौन सा chapter? ये पहला chapter है गायु. Okay, if you are like, first thing which all of you should memorize is syllabus. Know your syllabus. The first lecture, I always start with the explanation of syllabus and then I substantiate the game, isn't it? So please get thorough with the syllabus, people. All right. Now, with respect to this, as we are substantiating it, so here it's written that ethics has extreme moral relativism. That's what nihilists believe. So, when ethics has extreme moral relativism, so every human being is different, and the idea of right and wrong will differ as per every human being. That's what nihilists will say. So, according to nihilists, every human being is different, hence the idea of right and wrong, hence the idea of right and wrong differs for everyone. Hence, there is no point, hence there is no point to study ethics. To study ethics. So, because of extreme moral relativism, they believe that there is no point to study ethics because there is so much of like nihilists, as I explained, Rahul, they are negators. They negate. They completely negate about the possibility of what is existing. They do not believe or endorse what's happening in and around us. So they suggested that there's no point of reading ethics because everything is so highly relative, and they believe that it's not an objective subject. Okay, so we can consider that objective knowledge objective knowledge and predictability is not possible. Is not possible. Why it is not possible? Because human behavior cannot be determined. Okay, as human behavior is unpredictable. So objective knowledge and predictability ethics in ethics is not possible. Okay, as human behavior is unpredictable. You all can understand that, right? So in such a situation, when human behavior is highly unpredictable, we all can see that this kind of challenge emerges. Okay, so the nihilists, they believed that it's just not possible to have a discipline which can study the human behavior or the pattern, and because of which they rejected ethics as a subject in totality. Okay, so you can see this ethical nihilism or moral nihilism. It rejects all the possibility of absolute moral or ethical values. Good or evil, the idea is too vague. A lot of movies keep talking about that, no? Like you can see the movie Ra 1, which says that there is nothing like Ram or Ravan. Both the sides are evil. It's just that the situation and circumstances which determines who is evil and to what extent, right? So that is something which you can connect with. And that is something which also gives you an idea associated with the social and emotional pressures per se. So aren't they taking extreme stand? Definitely they are taking extreme stand. But when we are talking about the three different types of, we can say, ethical interpretation, or the three different schools of thought related to ethics, then we will talk about ethical relativism. One is saying ethics is relative. Second is saying no, ethics are universal, so ethical universalism. And the third one is saying that ethics is so highly relative that the discipline does not hold any value. So that is ethical nihilism. So these are the three types of schools associated with ethics when we are talking about it, that determine the, we can say, importance of ethics differently per se. All right, I hope all of you are understanding this. Case studies are important to get a grip. Case studies are application of the theory that is being taught. And we have not even completed the first chapter. As you complete few chapters, you will be able to understand, like, bit by bit, how enriched vocabulary is important for every single subject of GS. Langdi tang nahi to khel doge. Okay, like labdhi. If you are having poor command over vocabulary, you'll end up struggling to find the right word to express yourself, whether polity or economy, social issues or history. Okay. And with respect to this, you just need to be like more thorough when we are talking about it. So we do only darshan. So very true. That's what Femina I was saying, that majority of you are into doing only darshan. There is no dhyan and no karma at all. And that is something which you will realize that notoriously it is impacting your wholesome preparation. So as we are working bit by bit this given discipline, you will get empowered. How to improve the vocabulary? The old school method. After every chapter, write down the new words you got introduced to with the expression where you used it. And that's how, when you are like revising the chapter towards the end of the chapter, whether you're using book as the base material or my PPTs as the base material, anything that's your base material, towards the end of the chapter, please write the keywords, the new words, the new vocabulary you got introduced to. And that's how you revise vocabulary. Vocabulary needs formal effort, which you have done in your school days. You just need to revive your methods, as simple as that. Okay. So yes, in the Asur web series also they depict this ethical nihilism, the same thing. So very true. So ethical nihilism, as you are understanding, then let's move to consequences of ethics. And two questions, 2014 and 2016 question, I am just highlighting so that you get an idea that how consequences of ethics is asked. UPSC is not going to ask, discuss the relevance of ethics, discuss the consequences of ethics, discuss how ethics is important in our real life. Like, not like that. Little more sophisticated way of asking the question would be experienced by all of you. So you will realize something like this: what ethics seeks to promote in human life. See, it's quite simplistic but thought provoking. What ethics seeks to promote. Okay, so what ethics seeks to promote, okay, in human life. Okay, when we are speaking about that, so what how ethics contributes to social and human well-being. So positive consequences with respect to what? With respect to individual and with respect to society. Okay, individual and with respect to society. This is the concern of this question. Explain how ethics contributes to social and human well-being. Okay, on our end, the video is perfectly fine. Sarashti, if you can hear it clearly, just refresh it from our side. It's perfectly fine. So I hope all of you can see the question. Those who are slow grabbers, just read it once again. Read the question once again. And one thing which I always would encourage you, you can have this a piece of jaggery or mishri for like the summer season. That's the best coolant. So you can have some crystallized sugar. Crystallized sugar is called mishri in Hindi. You can take little pieces, keep it in your mouth. It will give the right sugar rush, but without creating heat in your body. Every time you feel little slow, just have a little piece of it, and keep having it and pay attention to the session. So the slowdown of your system will not happen, because every time the concept is being explained, that is something that you should be able to interpret with focused attention. See, this is such an easy question. I mean, I would say this is the most direct version of question that could have been. See this: explain how ethics contributes to social and human well-being. How will it contribute? It will contribute by having positive consequences to social life and individual life, right? So this is what is being asked, that what is the positive consequence of ethics in our private lives and public lives. In other words, this is what is asked: explain how ethics contributes to social and human well-being. You can see that, right? Again, see this: what ethics seeks to promote in human life. I mean, through ethics, what do we aspire to promote? What do we hope to promote? So with ethics, what do we want to create? right? So both the questions are connected to positive consequences of ethics. Now, so as we are like starting with this given subsegment, first thing which I can share with all of you is that, like, ethics is like electricity. You can't see ethics, but still the impact is there. The way we cannot see electricity, but there is so much of light. We can see that there is the possibility of, like, so many different types of cameras being functional, the microphone being functional, so many other gadgets being functional, my phone being functional, so many things. It's just because of the electricity when we are speaking of it, right? Yes, it is more intangible or abstract in its presence when we are talking about it. So ethics is like electricity. So we cannot see ethics like directly, but its impact can be observed. Okay, its impact can be seen. How? So if ethics is there in a society, the society will experience good governance. If ethics is there, transparency will be there. If ethics is there, probity is there. Like, for example, the ethics of a society determines what kind of pace of growth that country or that society is experiencing. Like, let me give you an example. We all know about this about Japan and about Germany, right? So during the Second World War, you can see that Germany was indulging in so much of human rights violation, right? And as Germany was indulging massively in human rights violation, there was something which was quite loud and clear, which all of us were like witnessing, and that was like millions of people being gassed and the world witnessing it with a lot of remorse. And bit by bit, a lot of action was taken from all corners to like contain this possibility of violation of human rights. So Germany, when we remember the Germany of Second World War, the world does not remember it as a pleasant memory, as a, like I would say, as a great country, as a country which was based on, like we can say, promotion of broader human values. Same applies to Japan. When you remember Japan of Second World War, you remember the massive violation of human rights that it was causing in different parts of the world. It was causing that, you can see, in Korea, in China. Also, when it reached India, especially in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, you can see a lot of human rights violation being done. Manoj Das, a very noted anthropologist, and his book My Little Village highlights that possibility. Manoj Das also, as an anthropologist, he had won Padma Shri award. So he also hyphenates that what Japanese army was doing, to the Andaman Nicobar Island, and how they tried to sideline the presence of Netaji by not letting him know the intensity of human rights violation that these people, I would say, were we can consider, they were not following the human rights, and they were violating it continually. Anyway, so in this given situation, when we are talking about the possibility of Japan today. We remember Japan with a lot of respect today because of its sense of discipline, hygiene, cleanliness. Everyone, almost everyone knows this fact that in every football World Cup, the Japanese people, as they watch the match, after the match is over, they clean the entire stadium. It barely takes half an hour, but they clean the seats around them. And because of which, within few minutes, the entire stadium is like neat and tidy. And that is like owning up the public space. That's like showing a responsible, matured behavior in our public space when we are talking about it. Yes, it is also associated with technological advancement, but here we are not talking about the scientific advancement. Here we are talking about the ethical advancement, like advancement in values, thought process, like behavior, how they are extending their ideals towards the larger society. So you will see that Japan, there was a movie also, 1945. If you watch that movie, it is also available in a subbed way. I watched it way back 2013 or 14 with subtitles. Like amazing a movie in terms of its depiction, and very heart rending it when it comes to human rights violation. So when we are talking about Japan or when we are talking about Germany, during Second World War, we have a different impression. The ethics of the leaders and the ethics of what the society was experiencing due to its leaders determines the kind of impression the world holds about these countries. But when we connect it, when we connect it with what these countries are associated with today, when we try to understand what these countries are experiencing today and the kind of values or virtuousness that they hold, we all can understand that these countries are exercising a behavior which is worthy of emulation, which is worthy of copying. Like Japan gives higher ideals of work ethics, of, I would say, punctuality, of cleanliness. Whereas when we speak of Germany, Germany has given brilliant examples of how to protect the human rights of people across the world, especially the refugee crisis, and the policy of Germany towards refugee crisis is worthy of applause, whereby we can see that Switzerland is ready to pay, the like EU extra money. It said that take extra money, but we don't want refugees of any sort coming in our country and trying to settle or enter our borders. We are very strict regarding our policy about people entering and becoming a citizen of our country. Whereas when we reflect upon the similar possibility with respect to Germany, when the Syrian crisis happened, Germany said that we will try to transport as many people as possible, but those who arrive at Germany anyhow, we will be taking care of your food, shelter, employment, and protection of your basic human rights. So the same country which was infamous for violation of human rights becomes the, we can say, the propagator of human rights when we are talking about it. So that's what I'm saying, that ethics, we cannot see it, but the impact can be observed. The impact can be observed, how it is impacting the thought process of a country, the thought process of the society, the way people living in that country behave, the way the people in that country respond. Okay, I hope all of you are able to understand that. So it is ethics which determines the values of a country, values of a society, and how the society ought to behave, how the society is able to process its decisions and its actions. So ethics is important. Why is it important? So that we improve how we live. By being moral, we can enrich our lives and the lives of those people who live around us. So an ethical behavior is not only great for our own evolution and growth, it is also exemplary in terms of inspiring people around us. Okay, so that's there. It also generates respect towards others. It generates empathy and compassion towards people who are around us. Okay, so respect towards people, compassion towards people, all that is possible only when we are ethical in nature. Okay, so when we are talking about the positive impact of ethics, so I hope all of you are able to understand all these keywords, memorize these keywords. It is already a shortcut. There is no shortcut to it when we speak of it. So here, when we are talking about this positive consequences of ethics, so under the component of positive consequences, first and foremost, we can talk about the individual perspective, how ethics impacts at individual level. At individual level, first and foremost, we can talk about that it can satisfy. Oh, just a second. So ethics can satisfy, so it can satisfy basic human need, basic human need pertaining to happiness, right? So it can satisfy the basic human need, and it can generate happiness, it can generate comfort, it can generate I would say a lot of confidence amongst the people. Like for example, as you all can see this given diagram. This is Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs. Hierarchy of needs. Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs, as all of you can see, right? So, what is Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs? So, as you can see, Maslow has said that there are lower order needs and higher order needs. What are lower order needs? So, lower order needs are associated with the physiological needs that we have, needs which are more biological in nature: food, shelter, like, cohabitation, all those things. So, when Maslow is talking about the possibility of, like, lower order needs, we can connect with it, right? So we can connect with these being the lower order needs, right? So these are lower order needs, and these are associated with the higher order needs. Right. So when we are discussing about this given possibility, so when we are talking about the consequences of ethics, it is associated with, we can consider the individual level. So the first thing is it satisfies the basic needs. So first we need our basic physiological needs to be completed. After that, we need some kind of security, security of our body, that no one hits us, hurts us, there's no conflict or war, the law of the land is to protect us. We can see there's some basic level of employment, access to resources, like, basic comforts associated with family, health, property, all that is safeguarded when we are talking about safety. Then comes the love and belongingness of our loved ones, whether friends or family. And then after that, we can think the higher order needs. The higher order needs makes us more humane, like, for example, having confidence, other people respecting us, we having self esteem. Okay, so self esteem, self respect, when we are able to see, we are able to respect others, others are able to respect us. Okay, then comes a higher level of existence, that is self actualization. What is self actualization? When we debate about it, so self actualization, bachas, it is associated with, the true purpose of life being realized by everyone. Like, let us say, if I am a teacher, I should realize that if there is a student who is belonging to a vulnerable section, but the child is really bright, and all the child needs is a bit of hand holding, and the child can catch up. And if I am capable to support the child, I should be able to support him or her with respect to his or her further education in whatever ways possible. Suppose there is a doctor, so maybe the doctor is practicing in his clinic for 6 days in a week. And the seventh day, maybe in first half, or on the sixth day only in the second half, the person can open the clinic for vulnerable sections. That, okay, I will take like the rest half of the day with respect to the vulnerable sections who are struggling with their health on a basic, like, some basic token amount, so that the self respect of the poor person is also intact, that I have paid some amount to the doctor to get the services. So some symbolic token amount, 15 rupees, 60 rupees, 40 rupees, anything of that sort. And to the well-off patients, the rest 5 days of the week, the person is charging 2000 or 1500 per visit. So that is how all of us can see this given dimension when we are talking about the dimension of self actualization. You can also connect it with, like, let us say, the possibility of, like, let's say a lawyer. There is the senior of mine, her mother and she, they both take the cases of vulnerable sections once in a week in Supreme Court. Otherwise, they are very, very highly paid lawyers. Like, for one hearing, they charge lakhs of rupees, but they take one case per month associated with a vulnerable section. The case is sensitive, no one is ready to take, and the person is unable to pay. That poor person is unable to pay the fee. So, this is how we are able to give back to the society when we are talking about it. So, self actualization, when we are talking about it, it makes an individual capable enough to give back to the society. When you feel responsible enough to give back to the society, this Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs, like, rather than factual, let us, like, I always tell you, darshan, dhyan, karma. Darshan is these facts which you can see. Now, dhyan, when you think of this level of evolution, think about those IS officers who go corrupt. Their level of development stopped at the level of love, belongingness. The lower level, lower order needs are fulfilled, and the person stopped evolving. respecting others irrespective of their economic status. Vulnerable sections, they also need some respect and dignity, whereby they should be supported correctly. And the higher order, whereby a person should be all the time accountable, transparent, right? So when we hear news like, oh, IS officer took 200 rupees bribe, 300 like crore bribe, rupees nikal gaya, I'm so sorry, so 200 crore, 300 crore rupees worthy of bribe, when we read all that stuff, that is like the order of self actualization is lost. So when we are talking about ethics, okay, ethics, it not only satisfies your basic human need to generate happiness, safety, well-being, okay, belongingness with your family, okay, but it also helps people to reach their larger ideals. So it helps people to reach ideals, to reach ideals. Ethics, it also motivates people to, like, have other goals in life pertaining to esteem and self actualization. Okay, so guides towards esteem and self actualization, right? So, when we are talking about positive impact of or positive consequence of ethics at individual level, this is how ethics can nourish you at three levels. It can generate happiness and satisfy your basic needs. Ethics can help you reach your ideals, and ethics motivates you towards esteem and self actualization. If we borrow the idea from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, see, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a separate subtopic, isn't it? It's a separate concept which you may read in economics or you may read other places. But that's how, with like dhyan, you are able to bring in a concept and connect it with the possibilities over here. All right. Then, as we further move ahead with respect to it, we can also see at organizational level, when we have ethics, what kind of impact is generated. So, we all can see that it can create a lot of cooperation in the work environment. It can also lead to, like, a healthy work culture. People can have, Simran Preet, better attention is required. I said self actualization for from at least five examples. Three, I remember very clearly. One was related to a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher. So, when the purpose of your life is not only associated with getting employed and, like, just eating, reproducing children, defecating, and dying, that's like an animal state of existence. That is associated with fulfilling your lower order needs. The higher order needs, when fulfilled, makes you truly humane in nature. And what is this? When you understand that the purpose of life is more than just fulfilling your own private personal needs, it is also giving back to the society. Okay, so please pay better attention. Now, with respect to this, when we are talking about it, uh, I understand that, Shiv. I'll try to write in caps. Okay, thank you for hyphenating it. So I'll write in caps so that you are able to understand. When you take a printout, you will be able to understand. And I wish that, see, my handwriting is not beautiful, but my handwriting is like doable. This is something which I know. But I'll try to write it in caps. But writing sentences in caps becomes little tedious. You can understand. Like individual level, I could have written in caps, but point one, satisfy basic human needs dash happiness, I mean, writing all of it in caps would have been like a tough. No, I'm not a doctor by profession, but yes, definitely doctors can have better handwriting than mine, because I have my family doctor who writes so beautifully. So let us not generalize. It is also a prejudiced opinion exercised in an ethics class, right? uh, by profession, I am like a professor, and also I have done law and enrolled to Delhi Bar Council as well as the Delhi High Court, but not practicing per se. Like, in that does not justify poor handwriting, right? My handwriting is just bearable, but I wish you would have seen some handwritings which I have to evaluate. They not only compete with me, they beat me. Like, they outsmart me when it comes to it. Okay, so anyway, when we are talking about this given dimension, Great, Atharv. Glad to know that. So, when we are talking about this given dimension related to organizational level, I said that at organizational level, we can see it generates cooperativeness. It generates not only greater levels of cooperation, but also a healthy work culture because it establishes good relationship between the leaders and employees. The leaders and the employees. Okay. If anyone finds trouble in reading it, please zoom it. You will be able to read it. I can assure you. Don't try to see like I would say the gist version, or I would say the compact version which you can see on your phone. Just zoom it. You will be able to read what I have written. The problem can happen when you're seeing a tiny screen of a mobile phone and you feel lazy to even zoom it. Then it can be a real challenge. I can assure you that because it doesn't look very cursive. But yes, the words are distinct. Alphabets are distinct. Now, trust and credibility between people and organizations can also be created with ethics. In the positive consequence of ethics with respect to organization, it can generate trust and credibility between people and organizations. How? So, for example, we can talk about the Tatas. We can talk about the Infosys. Okay, Infosys. So these companies, they enjoy a lot of trust and credibility amongst the masses because of the high ethics that they maintain in their nature of orientation. Right, so that's what we all can understand. That again, further we can see inclusive and sustainable decisions when we are talking about it. So inclusive and sustainable decisions can be made by the organization. How inclusive? So all the people, like suppose if the furniture has to be bought, so rather than only asking the CEO or only asking the vice president or only the manager, how about even asking the clerk? How about even asking the peon, because they are the people who are dealing with public on an average. So they can give some sound advice. They can say that, oh, please don't keep chairs which have sponge in them or which have good plush seats, because there are people who also come on day to day basis who keep scratching the seat, and after that they will make a hole. Some other person will come and start pulling out the sponge. So preferably place some steel seats or steel chairs. That is much better. So sometimes at organizational level, for functioning, for building greater trust, for generating more respect, for generating an inclusive environment, you give importance to the opinion of others as well. Okay, so that is associated with inclusiveness. When you are being inclusive in your decision making, sustainable in decision making means you are not taking decisions on the basis of haphazard or some immediate benefit. You are taking decisions having some long term intentions or long term motives clear in your mind, that okay, this is something which I aspire to create. When we are talking about, so that is something which will create sustainable decisions. Can ethics lead to predictability in actions of a person? Yes, it can. If a person is highly ethical, you will have a tentative idea what that person can do and what the person cannot do, come what may. Okay, like for example, my previous staff till 2017, there was Caroline auntie, and she was senior to my mother also in age. She was more like a motherly figure, and she took care of me for almost, I would say, 11 years. So there was a very thick bond that I shared. And when I started working, I remember once what happened was that some payment had come, and it was some consolidated payment. So the earlier, before the demonetization situation I'm talking about, there were a bundle of notes. And I had placed it in my cupboard, like openly. I'm like a very casual person that way. So I just kept it, and auntie could see that, yes, I'm placing it. And she was very casual about it. And I never used to lock my every cupboard or this or that behind my back. And she was the person who used to stay at home, clean the house, take care of my dog, take care of other things. And I could like leave my house keys with her at all times, whether I was in Delhi or not in Delhi. So when we are talking about the possibility, if suppose suppose if I'm wearing a ring or I'm wearing something else, and if it goes missing, I mean, I will trust and believe myself that I would have been casual and placed it somewhere else, or I would have kept it somewhere else and it would have dropped, or something must have happened, but I could have never ever doubted. Okay, like Caroline auntie, she was like my mother. I mean, the way I cannot doubt my mother for taking my ring, in the similar manner. So, like, when you really know a person, that the person is highly ethical, there is a sense of predictability towards the person's response mechanism, that how the person would be behaving. And that's how trust is generated. All right. That's something when we are talking about. Ethnic group is different from ethical. Don't mix words because they are sounding similar. Rathod. It's better that you find what is an ethnic group. Ethnicity is a social cultural term. Okay, it is associated with a distinct language, religion, or race of a given community, on the basis of which we determine ethnic group. Don't mix the two words. थोड़ा थोड़ा वर्ड सेम लग रहा है, दो उसमें से अल्फाबेट दाएं बाएं है, तो जरूर सेम ही होगा। मतलब ये तो बचकानी हरकत हो गई है ना। नैतिक और नैमित्तिक सेम कैसे हो सकता है? इन द सिमिलर मैनर, हाउ कैन एथिक एंड एथनिक बी द सेम? So, with respect to this, as we are talking, Seni, you just type your dimension. All right. Now, with respect to this, when we are talking about it, so inclusive and sustainable decisions, when we are talking about it, all of you need to understand that sustainable decisions can come in an institution when we are able to see the larger picture, when we are able to see the given possibility that with respect to the decisions for an organization are not only taken from immediate perspective, it is also taken from long term perspective, how it is going to impact the organization, the people working for it, like in future, with respect to hiring, all those possibilities with respect to it. All right. So yeah, the public at large and also the people working or associated with the institution at large, that is also there. So when we are speaking of it, we can also see the consequence of ethics at societal level. It generates what? So it generates social capital. How social capital? Because with ethics, there will be greater harmony. Okay. So ethics will create greater harmony. And with greater harmony, what will we see? Social capital will be created. To prove this, I can also give the example of second ARC, ninth report. You have to write 150 words. So just remember these basic examples. Okay. So the second ARC ninth report, the name of the report itself is A Shared Destiny. A Shared Destiny. And what is a shared destiny? When people are behaving like a social capital. All right. So this is how you can understand that ethics at societal level or at social level, when being present, that's the impact it creates. Again, when we are talking about the progress a society makes with respect to values, what is it that we all can connect with? So we can see that the society will be able to shape itself qualitatively. The relationships will be shaped qualitatively, right? So we can say the norms, the relationships will be shaped qualitatively, right? Will be shaped qualitatively when we are speaking of it, right? It also progresses, a society also progresses. How? So for example, when I'm saying the values of a society, will the norms of the society, the relationships of a society will improve qualitatively. So what will happen? So because of it, we will see that there will be a visible impact whereby we can see equality, liberty, tolerance, justice, right? So fraternity, all these terms shall be experienced, okay, at ground level by the society. Altruism, all these. Altruism, okay. If anyone does not know any of the words, dictionary is the solution. All right. So we can speak about that over here when we are talking about the society making a progress with respect to its values, with respect to its norms, with respect to its relationships. That's how a society would be moving ahead. Again, we can see it safeguards the society from different types of crimes and social evils, like for example dowry, child labor, like you can think of, like let's say organ trafficking, human trafficking, right? All that. So organ, human trafficking, right? So this is how you can associate with this, safeguarding the society from crimes or social evils. Yes, domestic violence, well, sati is no more so popular in terms of its like when I'm talking about its execution. Again, when we are talking about negative consequences, mind it, it's not negative consequences of ethics. Negative consequences appear when ethics is missing. When ethics is missing, it is then that we can see that negative consequences appear when we are speaking of it. All right. So, yeah, domestic violence only occurs when there is loss of ethics for a given society, right? So, Seni, I can see the word unethical that you have written, right? But if you are raising a question that's just not appearing, maybe I'm like busy explaining in between, so I like miss it. But please do share, because yesterday also you said that you were sending something but it was not reaching out to me. So ma'am, there will be result if a society progresses with values. Yes, these will be the results if a society progresses with values, as shared in the previous slide. Now the negative results or negative consequences if ethics is missing, right? So with respect to it, at international level, what can happen? So at international level, there can be frequent wars and conflicts, frequent wars and conflicts that can happen, right? Because of friction increasing, inequality increasing between countries. There can be power struggle, right? There can be power struggle, and there can be a dirty weapons race, right? We can also see that it will also retard the wholesome progress or growth of the world. So wholesome growth can lower in a given society. It can also lead to increase in trade wars. So trade wars can increase in a given society. It can also lead to polarization of the world, right? So polarization of the world when we speak of it, right? So it also can increase other types of problems, global problems, we can say. Global problems, global problems, like we can reflect upon terrorism, right? Terrorism, drugs, all forms of corruption, refugee crisis, all that, right? So you can keep like connecting it with this given dimension. Yes, cyber crime and all. At national level, when we are talking about it, it can lead to loss of cooperative federalism. So loss of cooperative federalism. Loss of cooperative federalism when we are speaking of it at national level means the interstate relationship can get affected. The state level, or the, like we can say, the center state relation can get affected. State state relation can get affected because of it. It can also lead to loss of constitutional morality, right? Constitutional morality. We can also see that it can also lead to criminalization of politics. Criminalization of politics. Along with criminalization of politics, we can see crime rate can go up in a society. Crime can go up. Horse trading in a country can go up. Horse trading, right? Horse trading can go up. There can be all forms of corruption in the country. So corruption can grow up, all kinds of like political corruption, let me say, because we are talking about national level. So political corruption can grow up, communalization can happen, right? So you can think of all these examples, right? Communalization of the country can happen, right? Similarly, at organizational level, if we are talking about it, at organizational level, unequal services, nepotism, favoritism, right? It can lead to loss of trust and credibility. It can also lead to loss of work culture. The work culture of an organization can go haywire with respect to it. We can also talk about the three E's being lost. Okay, the three E's. What are the three E's? So it is efficiency. Efficiency. It can be associated with, we can consider economy, right? And effectiveness. Effectiveness. Okay, so that can also be lost with respect to a given country, right? At social level, what can happen? Something like mob lynching can happen in a society. So mob lynching, we can see like there can be regionalism, there can be increase in communalism, there can be increase in all types of crime. So crime, organized, unorganized, all types of it. Casteism. So all forms of injustice and discrimination against vulnerable section, right? So discrimination in general. Discrimination can go up with respect to a given society. I appreciate all you people are also able to connect and you are able to suggest examples pertaining to it. Once in a while, I keep checking that what you all are writing, and I appreciate that you are able to connect with this. All right. Again, at individual level, what can happen? There can be mistrust in relationship. Along with mistrust, we can see that there can be rise in materialism, conspicuous consumerism, which is called. So increase in materialism or conspicuous consumerism. You don't need things, but you are just incessantly buying. So that is also there. There can be addiction of all forms, alcoholism, drug addiction. So addiction can increase in a society. Domestic violence can increase at individual level. When we are talking about it, a person can indulge in any such activity. There can be increase in the rate of divorce, right? So all these kind of problems can be associated with like the loss of ethics and its consequence per se. Yes, there can be cruelty of all forms. Ma'am, is there any ethical aspect of what is happening in France? Yes, there are so many things happening in France. Which aspect are you hyphenating about? So that's something which can be raised, because France is always culturally turbulent. It has always been turbulent and it shall always remain turbulent because of its orientation and its concerns related to broader human possibilities when we are speaking of it. All right. Now, so as we are moving ahead with it, we can now reflect upon the dimensions of ethics, right? A boy named Nihal shooted by policeman in France, but that policeman got jailed, and the community is doing riots, burning infrastructure. Yeah, I mean, like, see, these kind of activities on and off you'll find happening in different parts of the world. Like, for example, after 9/11, you will realize that a lot of Sikh community started getting targeted in America. Random shootouts used to happen, and specifically the Sikh community was targeted because many people used to connect, oh, brown skin, having a long beard, having a turban. So the Sikh community came up with, first and foremost, like distinguishing that our religion is distinct. So first, stop targeting us with prejudiced mindset. Another thing is that just on the basis of people's looks, skin color, or the way they dress up, generalizing people and connecting them with Osama bin Laden is not justified per se. Okay, so when you will see the given possibility, there is an increase in hostility, insensitivity, and a sense of lack of adjustment happening across the world. As cultures are coming closer, there is greater interaction. Both kinds of responses there is integration, there is sharing, there is amalgamation of culture, and at the same time there is cultural resistance, there is resistance towards other communities, there is resistance towards their existence, that there can be violation of human rights. So that is something which will happen. Both the counter phenomena will happen across the world. The examples will keep changing related to the country and related to the incident. But this phenomena, you can notice it has been happening for almost like 3 decades now across the world. As communities are coming closer, as interaction is increasing, as migration is increasing, as the possibility of, we can say, the possibility of interaction over do's and don'ts is increasing, and there is protectionism. People want to safeguard their culture, their society, their language, their thought process, and in the process, when they become over assertive, how they resort to violence as well. So all of it you can connect, right? So Manipur is burning for last 2 months, beyond doubt, and that is a very sorry situation. And the government should have some moral courage to take up some coercive standpoint and some meaningful action to rectify the situation. That's what, like, I would suggest. So showed so much of ethics and human rights, that is it accepted so many refugees. They are burning France. I mean, like France, Anmol, if you will notice, there is also a change, a dynamic shift in the way France perceives secularism. The country which came up with the idea of liberty, equality, fraternity, that same country, the idea of secularism as it perceived 3 decades back, then 2 decades back, then 5 years back, and then today, you will see there is a very subtle shift, a subtle cultural shift towards how the ideals are getting shaped, towards how people are, like, talking about it. Well, power dynamics gets affected in an unethical manner, Ambesh, due to horse trading. Horse trading, ये तो नहीं सोच रहे हो घोड़ा दौड़ाना. I hope you're not connecting horse trading as sale and purchase of horses. It happens when you are purchasing MLAs. Okay, and when you are like toppling a government and you are trying to bring in another one. Okay, so that is how it is unethical, because people in a democracy are electing their leaders with some kind of clarity and hope. So when you are into horse trading, you are somewhere breaching that trust which people exercise through their democratic rights. Fine. Now, so as we are further moving ahead, the classification or the dimensions of ethics, whether the question comes as, like, the component associated with classification or with dimension, you can respond to it in this manner. So first and foremost, you are seeing that there is ethics. Ethics has two aspects, theoretical and applied. Under, like, we can say the theoretical aspects, there are two sub dimensions. One is normative, second is descriptive. And then under the normative segment, we can see there is teleological, there is deontological, and there is virtue ethics. And descriptive also deals with meta ethics, and applied ethics is associated with professional ethics. So when we are talking about professional ethics, very briefly, if you can recall, when moral knowledge is put into justice, that is how applied ethics comes into existence, professional ethics comes into existence. Okay, so moral knowledge put to justice. Under what? Under applied ethics, when we are speaking of it. When moral knowledge is put to justice. And we can see, if we are talking about it from the perspective of professional ethics, you can connect it with, like, let us say, corporate ethics. Along with corporate ethics, you can connect it with, like, let's say, environmental ethics. You can also connect it with, like, let's say, biomedical ethics. You can associate it with, like, public sector sector ethics. If there is corporate ethics, then public sector ethics. You can also connect it with ethics in media, in sports. So, like, let's say sports ethics. You can connect it with ethics in media, ethics for doctors, ethics for engineers, like, cyber ethics, all of it. Cyber ethics, there is no end to it. As many professions, so many number of ethics, etc. So when we are talking about it, this is what we can understand with respect to applied ethics. Now let us deal with theoretical ethics. In theoretical ethics, normative ethics and descriptive ethics. Let us take up bit by bit, like all of them. So when we are talking about descriptive ethics, what is it associated with? So I'm going the reverse order. You can see that. Applied, I have discussed. Now, theoretical, I'm discussing descriptive. After descriptive, I'll take up normative. So, under this given dimension, as we are discussing about it, so when we are talking about descriptive ethics, descriptive ethics will deal with how people act in different cultures. How people act in fact, I should remove it from here. In different cultures. That's what descriptive ethics is all about. Now, when we are connecting this idea of descriptive ethics, as you can see, with meta ethics, so what is meta ethics? Let us understand that. So, meta ethics. What is meta ethics? So, meta ethics, it deals with the issues of universal truth. Universal truth. Universal truth, the will of God. The will of God. Okay, the role of reason. The role of reason. And emotion. The role of emotion in ethical decision making. Ethical decision making. And all the terms associated with ethical dimensions per se. So here, when we are talking about metaphysical issues, okay, so with respect to it, when we are like in this given dimension, when we are talking about the segment pertaining to meta ethics, what is it associated with? So meta ethics is basically, what does, in simple language, what does the idea of right even mean? सच या सही का मतलब क्या होता है? That is something which meta ethics deals with. What does the idea of right even mean? So the idea of right, someone will say the idea of right is associated with universal truth. Someone will say the idea of right is connected to will of God. Okay. Someone will say that the idea of right is associated with reason, isn't it? Someone will say that the idea of right means when we are using emotions, also taking care of emotions as well in ethical decision making. So people will, and please pay attention, each one of you. I don't want a single soul after 5 minutes, ma'am, please explain this once again. Not a single soul. Pay full attention, utmost attention to what I'm explaining under this segment of dimension of ethics. Okay. So when we are talking about meta ethics is raising the concern over what does the term right even mean? Sach hota kya hai? Sahi hota kya hai? What is truth? What is right? And it aspires to explain it from three perspectives. It tries to explain like the component of meta ethics from the perspective of, we can consider, metaphysical issues. Metaphysical issues. Under like along with metaphysical issues, you will find that it is trying to explain it with ethical universalism. Ethical universalism versus ethical relativism. I'll explain all of it. First, I'm opening the sub dimensions. So have patience. Just try to read this once again. What does right even mean? And the words written deals with the issues related to this universal truth and all that. So repeat it multiple times till the time you gain confidence in these words. Psychological issues also. Metaethics deals with psychological issues. For example, why be moral? Why to be moral? And it also deals with ethical rationalism versus ethical sentimentalism. Sentimentalism. Right. So, when we are dealing with it, first and foremost, the metaphysical issues when we are talking about it. So, what do we imply by this term metaphysical issues? So, metaphysical issues studies whether ethics belongs to the concerns of this world. The concerns of this world. मतलब क्या ethics में हम पढ़ेंगे इस दुनिया के बारे में या परलोक के बारे में? Means will we study about this world with respect to ethics, or is ethics otherworldly? Is it too larger than life? Is it too utopian? Okay. Is it too ideal, utopian? Okay. So when we are talking about the possibility of metaphysical issues, first and foremost, whether it ethics belongs to the concerns of this world, this world. So metaphysics will be talking whether it is connected to this world or is it associated with otherworldly expression. Otherworldly means post death and all that. Okay. So otherworldly, next birth or something like that. So meta ethics, I mean, what meta ethics means? Aditya, I asked you to repeat it multiple times, read it multiple times. Meta ethics will deal with the question, what does right even mean? What is right? What is correct? And there are multiple answers. Someone will say it is right is associated with universal truth. It is associated with will of God, associated with reason. Okay, anyway, so meta ethics, when we are discussing it from four subparts, one is metaphysical issues. So it will be connected with not only that whether ethics is pertaining to this world or some other world, it will also be connected with whether ethics is like universal and absolute, or is it changing with human intervention. So like probably just a second. Yeah. So we can connect it with whether, like, ethics are absolute, means universal when we are talking about it. So whether ethics are absolute or or they change they change as per situation. They change as per situation. So whether ethics are absolute or they change as per situation, that is something which we reflect when we are talking about ethical universalism versus ethical relativism when we are talking about it, right? What is utopian? Utopian is the ideal state which never exists. It is so ideal that is it only exists in theory. Okay. Now, psychological, when we are talking about the psychological issues, so it deals with what? Why to be moral? Why one should be moral? You know, this segment associated with psychological, why to be moral? This was also a concern that was raised by Draupadi when you see that Yudhishthira, like he was playing the game of dice, he was sent to exile. And when he was sent to exile in the very first month, when he was sitting outside his hut over a large piece of stone, Draupadi, she was very frustrated seeing him. And then she was like, today you could have been sitting on a throne of gold, encrusted with diamonds and all kinds of expensive stones, and here you are sitting on a huge stone, just because of your dharma, just because of your ethics, because you did not wage a war, against Hastinapur. You did not launch an attack on Hastinapur. So what is the utility of you being ethical? What is the benefit of you being ethical? I mean, you have lost everything in life just because you are ethical and you honor a dishonest game that you entered into with your brothers, who by playing foul, they trapped you into the game and they tried to let you lose it all. So when we are talking about it, Yudhishthira, he spoke of this given question, that is, why to be moral. Okay. So as I told you that I'll be like quoting a lot, and especially from Mahabharata, you will see I'll quote a lot, because Mahabharata is not a religious book. Mind it. It is a piece of literature or a mythology which is coming from our past. So whatever people in our society have lived gets documented in piece of literature. Whatever people have lived for hundreds or thousands of years, that is what becomes a part of our oral tradition and written tradition. And what will people document? The issues over which they have debated. That's why it is popularly said that there is no such sin which is not documented in Mahabharata. Had it been a religious book, it would have been only talking about good things, ideal situation. No, it talks about all kinds of sins, all kind of problems, all kinds of mistakes which people commit, and then it offers what could have been done. What were the alternatives? How people ignored and committed the foolishness or committed the evil design. Okay, so and that's why you will see that not other religious books per se. Once in a while, you'll see, like yesterday, you saw me quoting from Jainism. Sometimes you'll see me quoting from Buddhism. Sometimes you'll see me quoting from Islam. Sometimes from Bible. So different pieces of religion. And yesterday, you remember we discussed that source of ethics is also religion. Here, when I quote Mahabharata, it is not from religious perspective, not even distantly. It is completely from, because Mahabharata is considered as a book of moral inquiry. Memorize it and keep it, feed it in your head, because your ethics teacher, your professor knows it. Okay, you have to learn this thought process. You have to develop this conscience that ethics is associated with what? Moral inquiry. And Mahabharata is a book based on moral inquiry when we are speaking of it. So when this question was asked, that why to be moral, so Yudhishthira, he replied multiple types of answers. He said that a society develops due to ethics, human beings cooperate with each other due to ethics. Okay, so Draupadi was not getting satisfied. She like, no, 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 this is not the reason because of which finally such a strong stand was taken and ethical behavior was taken up. Even Charles Darwin had said that ethics helps human beings to evolve according to their environment. Okay, so ethics is necessary because it helps us to evolve. Okay, so it helps us to evolve as per the environment, and it is evolutionary in nature. Okay, then okay, it is ethics because of which you people are disciplined in the class. It is ethics because of which you will find that a lot of possibilities are conducted continually with a seamless manner, in a seamless manner, right? So when this person like Yudhishthira, who's also called Dharmaraj, and when this question was asked that why are you being ethical, why to be moral, and he says that this is my dharma. And what is dharma? It is coming from the Rig Ved. Okay, it means the law of cosmos. Dharma is coming from the dhri dhatu, or the root word is dhri. Dhri means something which can bear, something which can hold. Dharan karne wala. Okay, something which can hold. So, and the dhri leads to the word dhara also. Dhara means the earth which can maintain balance, something which can hold. Okay, and the dhri and dhara is something which can be associated with this dharma, the idea of dharma that can be associated with duty, moral code of conduct when we are speaking of it. Yes, all of you can quote from all different types of, we can say, texts. You can quote from Mahabharata, from Bible, from Quran, from Jataka tales, from Buddha's life. You can quote from Jainism, completely free when you are like talking about ethics. Anyway, So when like he was further pushed, then Yudhishthir said that I am being ethical because the consequences of not being ethical is quite harsh. A person gets stuck in the cycle of birth and rebirth, and a person can never be liberated. Okay, so Draupadi still was not satisfied. She was like, no, but birth and the possibility of birth and rebirth is motivating you to behave ethically all the time, even in this moment. That's not fair. Then he was like, see, in the absence of ethics, life becomes a total mess. A person can lose self-esteem. There can be high level of dissonance. There can be a high level of dilemma, guilt, remorse. Okay, so Draupadi kept listening, but she was like, no, there has to be something more than that, right? So finally, Yudhishthira said that I am ethical because this is what I am. Now, this is the essence of the entire conversation. I am ethical because this is what I am. This is who I am. What does this sentence hyphenate? This sentence hyphenates that behaving ethically is the most natural thing that comes to human beings. Remember that example which I gave you yesterday associated with dog, right? That a dog is chasing a person, and when you enter the movie hall late, you are like, ah, don't bite, don't bite. And the moment you know that this person has been a molester, you're like, oh, just take a good bite, right? So when we are talking about it, this is what was hyphenated by Yudhishthira. When he said that I am ethical because this is who I am, it hyphenated this basic principle, this basic concept, that why are human beings moral? Human beings are moral because that's the most natural way for them to exist. That happens to them naturally, effortlessly. A little child effortlessly is honest. Like, if you don't corrupt the child's mindset, you'll see that on an average, a young child, if is in a very honest, pristine environment where parents are very honest, environment is very transparent, you'll see the child will have no filters. The child will say and behave as per his or her thought and perception. So when we are talking about it, we can, why be moral can be associated from two perspectives: the Indian philosophy and the Western philosophy. So with respect to Indian philosophy, if I'm quoting Mahabharata, and in Mahabharata, if I'm quoting Yudhishthira, okay, so what does Yudhishthira say? Yudhishthira said that I am ethical because this is who I am. Okay, so I am ethical because this is who I am. This is who I am. What does this concept lead us to? This is leading us to the idea that behaving ethically is very natural for human beings. Okay, so behaving ethically is natural for human beings. Is natural for human beings, right? So this is what we can connect with, that behaving ethical is very natural for human beings. That's something which we all can understand. The similar example can be picked from Ramakrishna Paramhansa's life. So every day he used to meditate under a tree, and for past few days a scorpion was trying to make its nest over there. So he used to go and he used to remove the scorpion and sit down, and meanwhile the scorpion used to bite him. So Vivekananda saw, and he saw that he said that, Guruji, why do you touch that scorpion? Why don't you kill it? Because this is your place of meditation. The scorpion is like here. So you should avoid such a situation by touching it. You should just kill it, eliminate it. To which he said, the scorpion is behaving as per its nature. I am behaving as per my nature. So, as a human being, my nature is to exercise compassion, love, kindness towards others. So, being ethical comes naturally to human beings. Whereas the basic nature of the scorpion is to bite, is to hit back. So, that it is performing its nature. Okay. So, when we are talking about being ethical comes naturally to human beings, that is how you can understand. To which Yudhishthir also gave a very important quotation. Probably you can quote this also in the exam, that without dharma, the whole world, without dharma, the whole world, the whole world would sink. Probably I should avoid writing over here. Wait, I'll take another page. because there's such a beautiful quotation. I want all of you to reflect upon it separately. Okay. So when we are talking about like ethics is natural for human beings, here probably I can just make 2 stars and write it over here under quotation, like without, this is spoken by Yudhishthir only, okay, that without dharma, the whole world would sink into the bottomless darkness, into the bottomless darkness. Okay, this is also spoken by Yudhishthira. Now, what do the Western philosophers say? Why to be moral? Okay, so why to be moral with respect to the segment? No, we are discussing psychological issue with respect to meta ethics. Don't mix things. Okay, so aren't all the examples reflecting universalism of ethics? No, don't try to mix it, Ravi, over here, because here डिड युधिष्ठिरा स्पीक इन इंग्लिश? नहीं विवेक, वो तो एकदम बिल्कुल आपके लोकल लैंग्वेज में बात कर रहे थे. आर यू अवेयर दैट देयर आर 200 वर्जन्स ऑफ रामायण एंड महाभारत? Because as per the region and dialect, there were different versions that were rewritten, and a lot of versions got improvised. Okay, if you are not aware of it, so you have to translate and present it in the exam. Be smart about it. You are not supposed to learn so many different languages of different texts and write it. Okay, so गजब गजब क्वेश्चन जब पूछ लेता है, मतलब लगता है कितने इंटेलेक्चुअल लोग बैठे हुए हैं क्लास में. Did Yudhishthira speak in English? Wow, inspired. Anyway, so with respect to this, we can also connect it with, कैसे पता है संस्कृत? Seni, were you like alive then to overhear the conversation that they were speaking in Sanskrit? Anyway, so why be moral when the same question is asked from Western philosophers? So with respect to Western philosophers, you see that they suggest to avoid punishment, to avoid punishment, to gain praise, right? To attain happiness, to attain happiness, to have a dignified life, to have a dignified life, and then to fit in the society, right? This is what they would be discussing when we are talking about it. Again, with respect to this, when we are discussing about it, so why be moral? So we have to be moral because that's the most natural thing, that's the most effortless thing. In the absence of moral, the world will sink into a like bottomless darkness. And again, why to be moral? If we reflect upon the same question from Western philosophers perspective, we need to be moral because of these given reasons. All right, again, over here under this dimension of ethics, as we are discussing this component of descriptive ethics, and under descriptive ethics when we are reflecting upon meta ethics, and under meta ethics when we are reflecting upon the fourth component, that is ethical rationalism versus ethical sentimentalism. This is something which is associated with ethics of reason versus ethics of emotion. Okay, so this is, we can say, no, I should change the color. So ethical rationalism. So ethical rationalism is basically associated with reason versus ethical sentimentalism, and this is associated with emotion. That what should we follow? Should we follow the reason or should we balance the emotion in our final decision making when we are reflecting upon what is the right thing to do from meta perspective, from meta ethical perspective, when we are discussing about it. All right. So that's something which all of you need to understand. Okay. So ethical rationalism versus ethical sentimentalism. When we are talking about it, this is how we are supposed to reflect upon that, whether we should give importance to reason or whether we should give importance to the sentimentalism or the emotions per se. Okay. So, how can I link book and PPT? I'm not going to repeat what is written in the book. I mean, suppose if I'm teaching you Indian society, I won't be repeating what is written in NCRT. Then what will be the purpose of teaching? So in the class, you will find a simplistic explanation with fresh set of examples, which is distinct or different from the book. Only the core topics and subtopics will be similar, but the way it is dealt and explained will be different, so that you have the best of both the worlds. From the book, you learn something more, something distinct, something different and more enriching. And from the lecture, it is the stepping stone. It eases the process of understanding. It eases the process of connecting with ethics as a discipline, because you have not had this subject academically ever before. Okay, so the lecture is like a stepping stone, explaining and simplifying the journey. That's how you're supposed to treat the sessions. And that's how you're supposed to, after the session, reflect upon the book, and not under the pressure that you understand every single word, every single sentence. First, read the 30 pages and try to just finish 30 pages. Then you'll realize in bits and chunks you are understanding. Specific sentences or specific expressions are the ones which are causing a problem. Now you can focus on those expression in connection with the previous and later para. So again, the majority of those concerns will be again like explained to you the moment you read it once again, right? Those expressions only, sirf jahan jahan atak rahe ho, where you are getting stuck, if you are reading it, those expressions you are revisiting, only those expressions you'll understand it after reflecting it from the previous and the later para. You'll be barely left with some 5% odd concerns which you are unable to decipher at all. But except that, 95% of the things can be understood by you just by two readings. First reading is an overview reading, second reading is reflective reading. That is how a person is supposed to read. The third reading is revisional reading. And how many revisions should be there? So after the third reading, you should take a break and you should revise it again the next day and then the next day. Minimum 5 revisions is required. Okay. Preferable is, I would say, 7 revisions. Another revision should take place after a week. Another revision should be taking place after 15 days. That's how you get a grip over a discipline. One reading and understanding, the things don't stay with you. You only get introduced. What happens is, whether you're reading history, polity, geography, whatever, you do one reading, you understand the chapter, you close the book, you forget about it. After 2 months, the book will be as fresh, as new as it was. You're like, I read it, I have underlined it, but I don't remember anything. I cannot associate with anything. And that is because of lack of revision. 5 revision rule is a must. The ideal way for other subjects and chapters is first revision within 24 hours, second 48 hours, third revision is within a week, fourth revision is within 15 days, and fifth revision is within a month. You are not practicing 5 revision. That's why after 2 months, 4 months, 6 months of preparation, you are feeling disillusioned. I started and I'm unable to connect. I read this subject or this chapter, but still I'm unable to recall and join the dots. Revision is missing. दर्शन हो गया, ध्यान और कर्म नहीं हुआ. ठीक है. Darshan is reading, just reading it once. Introspection, connectivity happens when you are reading it multiple times. Only during revision, you start joining one chapter with another, one concept with another. So dhyan is not there. That's why things will not stay. And karma is making notes and revising and reflecting. So getting accustomed to language, expression. If you're not doing all of this, you cannot really become thorough with like the possibility of it. To attain happiness. Itna tough to nahi hai, third point. To attain happiness. Okay, now with respect to this, when we are talking about it, so when we are talking about ethical rationalism versus ethical sentimentalism in meta ethics, so whether we are prioritizing reason or whether we are prioritizing emotion, that is what is debated over here. So, ma'am, why Swami Vivekanand remembered after one reading? Because of wholesome meditative existence. And that is not practiced by majority of the people. When I really read slowly, things stay with me. It is because I am, like, not just reading, I'm also mincing the words. So that's there. And even more profound levels of reading, I have seen people do that. Okay. And that method also gets evolved when your baseline is clear. Suppose you know the constitution and you are reading DD Basu. So when you know the constitution in DD Basu, you are mincing the analysis part. So you'll remember what is written. So when you're reflective, analytical, focused in the moment, it will stay. Right? So that's what. Anyway, so divinity books are easy to grasp. That way, ethics should be the easiest paper because divinity deals with all kinds of philosophy. So divinity books are easy to grasp. Only that person can say so who has never read such books. Okay, from darshan dhyan karma perspective, because even I take a lot of time to interpret the finer lines and undercurrents of such books. They are not what they seem to be superfluously. Anyway, so when we are discussing about this given dimension, we all can see that ethical rationalism versus ethical sentimentalism is pertaining to reason versus emotion. Now, we have to reflect upon this dimension under normative segment. I was saying that we have teleological, deontological, and virtue ethics. Okay. Now, with respect to descriptive ethics, I have already discussed meta ethics. Now, so teleological, deontological, when we are talking about it, and virtue ethics. So here, let us move ahead with respect to this area. Maybe I can just take another slide and I can explain. So with let's say normative ethics, and under normative ethics, we can draw three sub-dimensions. First is deontological. There are three schools of thought under normative ethics. So deontological, then we can say teleological, and then we can say virtue ethics. Under the segment of, like, let's say deontological, we all also can call it non-consequential. Just a second. So it can also be called non-consequential ethics. Okay. Or it is also called means based approach. Means based approach. Right. Now, non consequential or means based approach, what does it mean? That for deontological, these individuals, they focus more on duty. That duty or the approach should be correct. Should be correct. And more important than the goal. So rather than focusing on the goal, rather than focusing on the end, one should focus more on the duty or the approach. This is something which is more important when we are talking about it. Okay. So, for example, why do we criticize Yudhishthira when he said that Ashwathama, when he shouted Ashwathama, and then he said that elephant or human being? He said it very, like, in a flat tone, in a very normal voice, and then he said, is dead. So, what was heard to Dronacharya was Ashwathama is dead. And he had said that if my son dies, I'll quit upon the war. And that is when everyone realized that the Guru cannot be defeated, they plotted this. And after he heard that Ashwathama is dead, he just quit upon the war. He left his weapons, right? Now, do we call Dharmaraj as Dharmaraj after listening to this incident? Do we say that this kind of act performed by Yudhishthira was guided by, like, ethics? No, not really. We do not consider this as an ethical behavior because he was aware of his intention. He was aware. So he focused more on the outcome. He focused on the outcome that let Dronacharya leave the war and let me not speak like false. Let me speak the truth. But did he really speak the truth when he lowered his pitch while saying that the elephant or human being? Okay, when he was shouting Ashwathama is dead. So that was a high pitch note. When the pitch was not same, that Ashwathama, animal or human, is dead. So, because he enjoyed credibility in the society as an honest man, upright man, trustworthy man, Dharmaraja Yudhishthir, so Dronacharya could not even think that what he is speaking is partially true. It's not a completely correct statement, and I am encouraged to quit upon the war. So this kind of move is not considered ethical from deontological perspective, because the methods or the approach used to defeat Dronacharya, to make him quit upon the war, was not ethical in nature. Okay, it was not ethical in nature. I hope all of you are understanding this. So we can connect it from four perspectives: the idea of deontological approach, from the perspective of duty, from the perspective of contract, from the perspective of justice, and also from the dimensions associated with rights. Let us reflect it from these four perspectives. Like when the German commander focused only on following the orders of the German Reich or of Hitler, when he did not care that because of my orders, millions of Jews will be gassed, old men and women, young children, innocent individuals, innocent youth will be killed unnecessarily. When the person did not reflect upon the kind of repercussion that could have been born, that could have been created because of that, that's something that can be associated with the dimension of, like, what kind of outcome is brought because of it, right? So when we are talking about this dimension of duty, okay, with respect to it, we can see that the German commander following the duty, German commander following the duty, when German commander is following the duty, it led to what? Killed many because of that, because the person did not focus on the end. The person did not focus on, we can say, the means that is being used. Okay, so when you are like only focusing on the end, that okay, I just have to follow the command, I just have to be an honest commander, an upright commander. Okay, so when the person is only focusing on the end, that I have to just take the order, irrespective of what it is, the means gets defeated. Okay, and because of which a lot of human rights violation can take place. Similarly, when we say contract, the present day soldier, the present day soldier is under what? Is under contract. And when the present day soldier is under contract, the soldier has to abide by the instruction of the senior, whatever the command may be. One does not have to pay attention to the validity of the command. If the person is saying that, okay, just pull out that water tap, or break the roof of that house, irrespective of why, what is the validity, whether it is settling a personal score, or is it associated with, the impact is associated with some professional activity which is essential to take control of a enemy territory or a disturbed disputed territory. No, if the person is blindly following the command, in that situation, under contract, in that situation also we can see this given possibility unfold. Again, yeah, sometimes even if senior ministers are giving instructions which are unethical, in that situation also you can consider. Yes, you can think it from different countries perspective as well. Now, with respect to justice, when you are focusing on the end, not the way, it is being executed. It's like, for example, we can talk about the reservation policy. When you are only focusing on reservation policy to be executed, when you are not questioning whether justice, rather proportional ayo wait let me okay, so whether proportional justice is exercised due to the reservation policy or not, that is not, paid attention, then in that situation we can see that the very possibility of exercising justice can fail. Like, if someone is not able to understand that, like let's say the reservation policy, if it is extended to the scheduled caste, that is, it is extended to the scheduled caste among Sikhs, amongst Buddhists, in the similar manner it should be extended to the Dalits, like amongst Muslims, Dalits amongst Christians. Then only it will be inclusive and justified. If that principle is not taken care of, or the principle that, like let's say someone has benefited from reservation policy for 3 generations, and in the same exam there are contestants who are like applying for reservation, and they are the first generation learners, like parents are poor peasants or cobbler or something like that, and the first generation learner has been able to reach to that level. So in that situation, the intensity of vulnerability is not calculated, that who deserves it first and who deserves it all the more. So let us prioritize those students first, and the ones who have benefited it for at least 2 to 3 generations later. So when this kind of reform approach is not like there, so in the absence of the reform approach, when reforms are not there, okay, so in the absence of reform approach, justice is compromised. So what are you focusing? You're focusing only on, okay, this is the reservation policy, let us execute. But what is the purpose of it and how is it executed when you're not questioning? Okay, the final ultimate goal, can we really achieve it? Can we really experience it per se? Okay, again, with respect to it, when we are talking about rights, with respect to rights, all of you are aware of freedom of speech. So when we speak of freedom of speech, suppose freedom of speech, when we are talking about it, and someone says that let me exercise my freedom of speech like completely, and under the freedom of speech, if someone is making, like let us say, hate speech, and due to the hate speech, if the person is causing riots, in that situation we can again see the failure occur. So what is the failure? You are focusing more on the possibility of, you're focusing more on the possibility of exercising your rights. You are like, this is my goal, this is the right that is granted to me, so I shall exercise. But how I should exercise my rights, how far is it legitimate, how far is it justified, how far it is taking care of the rights of other individuals as well, if not taken care of, that will also lead to loss of ethics in the society, that needs to be reflected, that needs to be thought of. All right, so I hope all of you are able to understand this bit. Okay, so with respect to this given dimension, when we are talking about it, when we are talking about this given dimension, we can further move ahead with the dimension of teleological. Well, Jairaj, when you're asking the question that the PM of New Zealand's video, which got viral while dancing as a drunkard, is it ethical when a person is holding a post like that? You know, whenever you're holding a public post, forget about the PM. Let us talk about even an IS officer. Many IS officers raise this question that just because I am an IS officer, don't I have a private life? Don't I have the right to party with my friends? No, not really, not publicly. I'm being very honest. Because you're the friend, philosopher, and guide of the society. You may know how to hold your pegs and quarters, but when the youth, the youngsters are watching you, they may not get inspired that, oh, the person can drink and but can hold one's pegs and quarters and may not topple down or may not behave in an obscene manner or may not hurt others. Majority of the youth cannot think like that. Majority of the youth will lose balance, and majority of the youth will be like, thinking about the possibility that, oh, look, the IS officer can do, then why can't I? So that's why it is considered that it's a 24/7 job. Let not any act of yours be unbecoming of an IS officer. So, unbecoming of an IS officer, let not any behavior be unethical or may not be a poor example for the people. All right, Jairaj. But I hope you are understanding as you are raising this doubt that it is falling little out of place compared to what we are discussing. Deontological is what we are discussing. You raised this question, I explained it, but let us get back to what we are dealing with. So, deontological, if you're understanding this, you can then talk about teleological. So teleological is focusing on what? It is focusing on the goal, the consequence. So it is also called consequential or end based approach. Consequential or end based approach. For example, for this, what we can suggest is, I hope all of you remember the movie Razi, right? So if you remember the movie Razi, in that there was a dialogue which Alia Bhatt said that Vatan ke aage kuch nahi. And she, as a Kashmiri girl, she was married into a Pakistani family, and she was married in the family of the army general. She was spying for Indian army, and she snitched and got all the vital information. In the process of extracting that information, a lot of death was caused in the family. The entire family got devastated, right? So when we are talking about this dimension end based approach, okay, what do we see? We see that when people are motivated by the spirit of nationalism, so what is it considered? It is considered what is good for my nation is good for me, is good for me. This intention, whereby the end is justifying the means. So, whatever is the end, that is the means. I do not care what happens to me or how I have to compromise with others' lives or others' existence. If the goal is getting fulfilled, then the means are also justified, whatever is done. It is finally the goals that should be met. Okay, so that's what is deontological approach. Okay, so there are different schools of thought which try to debate and discuss how ethics ought to be perceived. In the similar manner, last but not the least, we can also connect it with virtue ethics. Virtue ethics are associated with, can we say teleological as extremist? No, that won't be fair. See, deontological is Gandhi's approach, where he says that the means are as important as the ends. And teleological is connected with Subhash Chandra Bose's approach, that it is the end that makes a lot of difference. I should just focus on my ends. If I'm focused on my ends, then the means shall over the time period get justified. So, saying that it's an extremist approach will be, I would say, not exercising ethical relativism. We have to be open to the possibility that ethics can be perceived from different perspectives. Can we quote movies? Yes, you can quote movies. You can quote movies based on real life incidents, or you can quote docu series as well, along with. I would say newspaper reports, along with facts given by surveys, reports, or other sources. Okay, but remember, docu-series or movies based on well verified real life incidents. That's also there. Again, with respect to virtue ethics, when we are talking about it, so virtue ethics, what are they? So virtue ethics are based on individual. Okay, so individual based approach. So individual based approach, virtue ethics. Okay, what does that imply? It means that my ideals shape my actions. My ideals shape my actions, as simple as that. Means you do not care for how the world responds. You first believe in a set of ethos or ideals, and accordingly you respond for it. So I can give you an example. There was this IPS officer before COVID, when the CA NRC protests were going on. At that given time period, what happened that this boy, he was posted as a IPS officer in Aligarh. So he saw that the students of AMU, few boys, they got really triggered and they were about to resort to physical violence. Okay. So when he saw that they are about to like damage some property and government property and going to resort to violence, what he did was he took the microphone and he announced this. He said that, listen, I understand your anger and sense of dissatisfaction. I understand that you have the right to protest and your right to raise your voice. But just listen to me for 2 minutes. And after that, you can choose how you want to behave. The first thing is that I have been a student of JNU. So I know that how important it is in democracy to register all kinds of opinions, even the opinions which are dissenting in nature, even the opinions which are healthy for the democracy, even the opinions where the aspirations of a given like let's say community can be different from the law or the methods which are getting executed. It is right of all communities and all human beings to protest against things which they do not approve of on legal or ethical grants. So what you are doing is perfectly fine, perfectly democratic, and the police is supposed to protect and propagate democracy. We are supposed to protect your rights. We are supposed to protect that other peoples don't harm you or hurt you while you are protesting. No, like person is motivated by some political intention and harms you and hurts you. You have the right to protest and you are able to protest peacefully. So we are not against you, we are standing for you. But the moment you resort to violence, the police will have to come to action, because it also has another duty to maintain law and order at all times in the society. If you break the law and order and the peace and harmony of the society, we will have to sack you up, send you to the jail, register an FIR, and then your career will get affected, your parents will get affected. Moreover, most importantly, the issue for which you are protesting, that will get submerged, that will get suppressed, that will get lost in the tide of all these arrests and all these kind of frictions and movements. So you have to make the wise choice. Do you want to take some physical action and some immediate kind of anger which has a physical manifestation, or do you want to continue protesting sensibly and peacefully? The choice is yours. So, what was it that was motivating the individual? What was it? The individual was motivated by his values and ideals. That's virtue ethics. His values and ideals, which he had studied from the constitution, from the democracy, and he had seen it being practiced in his educational institution, how important it is to protest and how protesters ought to be treated under law, as well as how protesters ought to be treated when they are coming up with their opinions and their insights. All right, I hope all of you are understanding that. So our ideals, our personal virtues, our personal thought process also impacts the way we react to a situation. And just few months later, when COVID happened, do you remember, there was an IS officer in Northeast, a marriage ceremony was going on, he entered the ceremony and he started hitting the bridegroom's parents, the elderly couple. He started hitting them, beating them. How dare all of you congregate? There are ways in which a person needs to stop such action. You cannot resort to violence, and that to physical beating, right? So that was highly criticized. So the kind of virtues that we hold, it impacts our action. That is what virtue ethics talks about. All right, I hope all of you are able to understand that. So this is what like we imply to say when we are talking about it. So in teleological, end is ethically justified, but not deontological. Yes, exactly. In deontological, you focus on methods, means. In teleological, you focus on ends. So in teleological, you are only focusing on ends, howsoever you attain the goal, howsoever you attain the end. Whereas in deontological, you focus on the ways, the means, more than the ends. Okay, that's how you're supposed to explain it. All right. मैम कैन आई राइट द सेम डेफिनेशन ऑफ नेशनलिज्म? नो, 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 नेशनलिज्म का ये डेफिनेशन है ही नहीं. नेशनलिज्म जो है ना, अगर आप इसको पढ़ना चाहे तो रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर्स आर्टिकल इज देयर ऑन नेशनलिज्म. Nationalism can have a narrow meaning as well as a broader meaning, a benevolent meaning. In its benevolent meaning, nationalism gets closer to patriotism. But in narrow definition of nationalism, it can lead to mob lynching, it can lead to a faulty interpretation of nationalism, whereby you are connecting it to one specific community and denying other communities, on the basis of which you can exercise superiority, violence, coercion towards other communities. So you need to know these technical terms completely and thoroughly before being able to use it. Globalization, broader meaning, when Indian society would be taught at that time, learn the broader meaning of globalization. Right now, this is not the time to discuss globalization. All right, I hope all of you are understanding. So let's take a break and let's be back again. Karna was focused only on standing for his friendship, okay, and not whether his friend, all the actions taken by his friend is justified or not, ethical or not. So that also makes him in a way teleological. When you are focused only on the end goal, that I have to stand my friend for my friend, come what may, right? Whereas like a deontologist will focus on the means more than the ends. And similarly with Krishna, you'll find that means and ends in certain situations Krishna behaves in a manner that he is a deontologist, and in certain situations he is behaving as if he's a teleologist. So that's how you can connect with this given dimension. All right. So Krishna did everything as required to establish dharma. Yeah, that's also there. But initially, he tried the deontological methods. Like he offered the choice to Duryodhan, that just give us 5 villages and we shall not wage a war. So that was a, I would say, like deontological effort, that let me first try to avert a war, try to avoid a war as much as possible. That's how, right? So, when we are further moving ahead with respect to this, um, among all the 3 types, which is the best policy? In ethics, there is nothing like best, Sachin. Always remember that. There is always the possibility of relativity ruling in ethics when we are talking about it. So, um, what they are just prescribing me to take classes while I just want to know about this optional. Anshika, this is not an optional. This is like GS paper 4 that we are studying. We are studying about ethics GS paper 4, and we are dealing with the first chapter. And in the first chapter, we are about to start with another subsegment, that is ethics in public and private relation, right? So I hope that's clear. First and foremost, this is not an optional class, and rather it is a blend of 5 subjects, as I discussed it yesterday. So, so how come this question? Okay, fine. Now, with respect to this, how do you connect with such examples? Reading and thinking, both. Okay, so read, contemplate, get a wholesome understanding of what is happening in and around us, and then connect it with what ought to be there. Okay, so that's what. Now, anyway, ethics in public and private relation, when we are talking about it, so you all are aware of this basic fact when we are talking about it, that human beings are social animals, right? So, human beings, because they are social animals, that's why it is important for human beings to, we can consider be associated with interactions, create human relations, create human relations. And that is why it is important for us to understand this. Ethics in public and private relation is an outcome of human beings being social animals. And the human relations will be of 2 types. We all can understand that. Private relation, which will be associated with family and friends, right? And when we are talking about public relation, that will be associated with the different domains of existence that we have. It can be political, it can be professional, it can be like social, it can be international, all different ways in which we can connect, right? So we can also see that the overall well-being of an individual overall well-being of an individual depends on social relations, depends on social relations, right? That's one thing which all of us are aware of. Again, we are aware of the fact that the standard of life also depends depends on, we can consider ethics, the economic determinants of life, the political determinants of life, right? So it also depends on ethics that we are exposed to, right? So even Gandhiji had said that the value of our work is in the values that are guiding our work. The same quotation connected to deontological thought process, that the value or the importance of our work lies in the values which are guiding our work, which is behind our work. Okay. So when we are speaking of ethics in public and private relation, and when we are talking about it is associated with overall well-being, it is setting the standards associated with life. Okay, so we can just connect it with respect to the given dimensions. So ethics in private relation, when we are talking about it per se, so with respect to it, when we are discussing regarding this segment, maybe I can just add a slide first and then discuss about this segment later. So first and foremost, ethics in private relation. Ethics in private relation, when we are discussing this given segment. To substantiate this segment of ethics in private relation, first and foremost, I can quote a Harvard University study. Harvard University study, which is also considered as the longest study in human history, okay, so far. So it is the adult, just a second. The name of the study is Adult Development There were 250 participants who were studied between the time period of 1938 to 2017. It is considered as the longest study conducted in human history. Longest study in human history. So, what was the major objective? So, the major objective of this study was major objective of the study was to identify what makes human beings happy. What makes human beings happy? For this, you will find that people from different walks of life were studied. Okay, so different backgrounds, people from different, we can say, power structure, people from different access to wealth. Okay, they were studied. And when they were studied, what was found? That it is the human relations that ultimately make people happy. That ultimately make people happy. That ultimately make people happy when we are discussing about it. Okay. So the relationships that we are talking about it, Goodreads, Nihar, don't worry. Later on, as you are evolving, for example, if I were you, I would have tried to search quotations on ethics. What is ethics? Good ethics, something like that. Okay. Values, importance of values, quotes like that. Okay. Tomorrow, like if we'll be stepping into the name of thinkers, so with respect to thinkers, again, you'll be getting exposed to the given possibility. So it is the human relations that ultimately make people happy when we are discussing about it. So when we are discussing that it is ultimately like the human relations that is making people happy, that is fulfilling their desires, we can also connect it with, like, let us consider the daily wage laborers. The daily wage laborers, they seem to be the happiest people. Happiest people. So, lack of concern about present, oh, sorry, of future, lack of concern for future and living in the present also makes us happy. Living in the present makes us happy. Again, it was studied with respect to the soldiers who were posted in like border areas and soldiers who were posted in peace areas. So generally you will expect peace that soldiers in a war or conflict zone or in a like border area will be more strained, and soldiers in a peace area will be relatively relaxed, staying with their family. But the reverse was observed. Soldiers living in the war area or strained area were enjoying life on a day to day basis, because they did not know whether they will be able to see the next day's morning sun. So they were trying to live to the fullest the given day that they were exposed to. Whereas the soldiers who were, when we are speaking of this, the soldiers who were associated with, we can say, who were like not associated with this given scenario of the war, when we are discussing about it, the soldiers who were living with their families peacefully, they were dragged into petty politics, into petty comparisons with the relatives, who has what, who's traveling where, who's purchasing what. So they were relatively more dissatisfied and more gruntled. Okay, so that is something where which we all can connect with this given scenario. I cannot write in chota font, Sarashti. Please keep the advice to yourself, for the simple reason the board on which I'm writing in morning, I have this big board. But right now, what I'm writing is like this little board. So my handwriting cannot go chew, chew, chew. It has to be like little proper so that you are able to read the handwriting. Otherwise, you'll be the people who will be complaining, we cannot understand the handwriting. There's a limit to which I can shrink the size of my handwriting, because the writing instrument is just this much. If I just pick it this much, okay, this is the space in which I'm writing. So considering the logistic issues, you can just consider writing in thinner font. When you are taking a printout, it will be flimsy. It will, because the morning student said, ma'am, please use the fatter pen so that it is visible to us when we are taking a printout. So what I'm doing is, there is a reason or logic behind it. Okay, now going ahead with, and thank you for your suggestions, but it was not needed. Now, with respect to this, when we are moving ahead with it, you can also quote Adler. So Adler, he said that every human being has three lives. Okay, so every person has three lives. And what are the three lives? We can connect it with, we can consider professional life. We can also connect it with social life, and we can connect it with personal life, right? So these are the three segments. Okay, and there has to be a balance. Probably I should change the color. So there has to be a balance between the three when we are talking about it. Then only we can have good relations. Good relationships can be based only when there is a balance between the three. Good relations can be established only in this given scenario. Now, along with Adler, probably I can quote Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, so Gandhiji also spoke of the idea that how relationships can be based on four core principles. So relationships should be based on four core principles. Four core principles. What are the four core principles which holds a relationship? First is respect. Always remember, if there is lack of respect, no relationship can survive. No amount of love, no amount of commitment, promise, signing papers, this, that can hold a relation. Respect is first and foremost. After that, a sense of understanding. So, understanding, whereby you are open to understand the perspective of the other person, open to modify as per the perspective of the other person. Then acceptance, that yes, the other person is different from me in food, in thought, in action, and it's fine to be different. And then appreciation, that wow, the other person is different, so I'm getting an opportunity to see the world from a different perspective. So for maintaining good personal life, personal relationships, he said these are the four core principles which can establish good relationship in our private lives, as well as primarily private lives is what he said, as well as later it can also impact our professional lives. Again, when we are discussing about it, distinctly, we can also, other than Gandhiji's like insight, we can also connect it from the component of personal ethics. So, what are personal ethics? So, personal ethics will be based on morality plus emotions when it comes to like relationships. Personal ethics in relationships um, ought to be dependent on this when we are discussing about it. So, relationships. Okay. And when we are discussing about it, it can be connected to ethics of care. Ethics of care is what we exercise in our personal relationships versus ethics of justice. Ethics of justice. Ethics of justice is what we have in our public relationships. So, what do we want in our personal relationships? Personal relationships will be based on sentimentalism, and public relationships, we will try to exercise fairness, or in other words, we will try to exercise ethical rationalism, right? Let me give you an example, and that will make sense to all of you. So, when we are talking about this component of ethics of care versus ethics of justice in personal relationships, you should be able to understand and correlate with this given segment, which I'm going to substantiate. Okay, so let us consider for a while. Suppose there is a person who is uh, like let's say let's consider like that. Suppose your brother comes home someday, once in a while he goes for partying with his friends, and like once in 15 days or a month, suppose he is drinking with his friends. So and he's generally like acting sober, or he's not creating any kind of nuisance for family or society. He just comes back home very quietly, he lies down or sleeps, and if parents are there, he does not go for partying. So all that stuff he's maintaining. So suppose one day your brother comes, then in that situation you find that your brother has drunk, and he's coming and he's fumbling. Okay, and he's like as he's climbing the stairs, he's like, oh my god, something terrible has happened. By mistake, I just like hit a person on the road, and the person just fell down, and I could see blood, and I got so nervous. I just kept driving, and I just came, and I'm so nervous, I'm so scared. I don't know, have I killed the person? Should I reach out to the police? What have I done? So you'll first cool down the person. Don't worry, just sit down. So where did you cross, which lane, were there security cameras, how to go about with it? So like let us consider the person is like really nervous, and the really like taken aback, and you want to protect your brother if that situation is like occurring. Okay, so like let us consider, if Abhishek, you are attentive, you can understand it. Okay, all the game is all about being attentive. The game is about being attentive. Okay, and being in the moment, not distracted, not using something else or doing something else. Okay, so just connect with the concept. That's what I can suggest, like at the moment. So like let us consider that your brother is in that given situation, so you will try to cover up for your brother, or you will try to protect your brother in that given situation, isn't it? Now let us reverse the situation. Suppose you see that your neighbor, you're not in very good talking terms with your neighbor for any reason, and you know that the neighbor's brother once in a while gets into like partying, and you realize that the neighbor's brother, while partying, after every 15 days or a month, comes in an inebriated condition, and the brother or the another sibling sister opens the door and quickly gets the person inside. Now what happens is, one night you're awake and you see that the fellow is coming, and there's a slight dent in the car, and as the person is parking, it's brightly lit parking, and you can see that. And as the person is climbing, the person is like almost jittery, the person is like sobbing, and as the sibling opens the door, which is like your next door neighbor, so the person says, oh my god, some problem has happened, and like it seems I've hit someone, and the sibling is like, hush hush, don't talk like that, come inside, let's talk inside, what has happened? So in that given situation, okay, Will you exercise the same sense of justice which you would exercise when it is case of your own brother? This is what ethics deals with. Ethics suggests that when it comes to our personal relations, we generally tend to be guided by ethics of care. And what is ethics of care? We try to balance emotions with sentimentalism, or morality with emotions, our sense of right and wrong with emotions. That's what we try to balance, which is also referred as ethics of care. Then comes ethics of justice. Under the component of ethics of justice, we can see that there can be public relations. And under the component of ethics of justice, we can see that in public relations, it is fairness that is exercised at all times. So, like in ethics of justice, when we see that fairness is exercised, then we try to, because it is associated with our neighbors or it is associated with the larger world. So, we always try to be upright. We always try to bring in the moral compass. We always try to see that justice is meted the way, we want justice to be articulated on ground. We try to promote it accordingly. So that is called ethics of justice. So when we are talking about ethics in private and public relation, so in ethics in private relation is based on ethics of care, and ethics of justice is something which is determining the public relation. Abhishek, are you understanding that? Can you connect with this? Right? So ethics in two different situations. Yes, ethics also vary in two different situations, but right now the topic is not situation, Vijay. We have already discussed two different situations in ethical relativism, if you were present yesterday while it was being discussed, right? Today right now we are discussing ethics in public and private relations. So let us not meander and let our tail turn towards something which has been discussed in the past. Let us bring our attention and just, stick to the present reality and interpret it accordingly, right? So yes, we want justice from others. In all case, with respect to others, we want fairness to prevail. Whereas ethics, when we are talking about it with respect to our present reality in that situation, with respect to our private relations, we want the care to be taken up, right? So ethics of justice is related to public relation, Ganesh. What would you do? Will you exercise the same justice with your brother as you will exercise it with a random stranger on the street? Your brother getting into a street fight and a stranger getting into a street fight. Will you exercise the same sense of ideal before the police towards your brother as you would have exercised the ideal for a random stranger? For a random stranger, like, police ko pakdo pakdo, just get this fellow arrested. He was causing a ruckus on the street. This person was causing a problem of law and order, breach of law and order. And if it is your brother, like, sir, sorry, I mean, this kid is like little erratic, but we'll see to it next time the person is not doing or repeating this problem. That's how we talk. That's what ethics of care versus ethics of justice. Because in personal life, we mix morality and emotion. I think if anyone is attentive, just by reading the keywords and listening to the explanation, a person can understand. Isn't it? Yes? So I hope all of you are able to connect with this idea. Is the concept clear? Ethics of care versus ethics of justice. Okay, all right. So that is what, I imply to say in simple language when we are talking about it. So yes, when ethics of care comes, a person tries to act like an adjudicator. That's also there. So with respect to this, and that's why I said that ethics is not tough. All you need to be is attentive, and all you need to be is, like, connect with the keywords, understand the keywords, understand the explanation, you will be able to absorb it. Then when you read the theory from the book, bit by bit in pieces, it will make sense. Always read the book in a disciplined manner. Tell yourself that I promise that I'll read at least 30 pages in a day, at least, even if you're studying some other subject. Okay, so 10 pages per hour, that is the speed, whether I understand or not, whether I memorize it or not. In the absence of examples, that's why I said lexicon is not a very great book according to me, because lexicon lacks examples. Lexicon lacks multiple critical reflections through examples. That's why it becomes a little dry. And that's why I do not advise lexicon to a beginner student. Never ever. All right. Again, so when you are understanding ethics of care, And when you are understanding ethics of justice, with respect to this, we need to understand that morality, when we are talking about morality and we are connecting it to private relation, morality in private relations, then we can see there is a chicken and egg causation. Chicken and egg causation between the relationship of, we can consider, morality and like private relations. I mean, whether morality comes first or the like private relation, morality leads to private relations, or private relations guide morality, you cannot determine, because sometimes morality will be determining how one ought to behave with one's father, with one's mother, what jokes to crack and what jokes not to crack, what is the basic demeanor to be maintained before like one's sibling, elder sibling or younger sibling. So sometimes morality is guiding the private relation, and sometimes it's the private relation which is determining our morality, our behavior with respect to how we are behaving with a specific individual. The relation is determining how we are behaving with a specific individual. Now, with respect to this, I would like to ask from all of you, which relation is more important? Is it the private relation or is it the public relation? Which relation is like, which relations are to be considered more important according to you? See, both the relations are important, I agree. But I am asking more. So you should learn how to like comprehend statements correctly, isn't it? So that's what is testing comprehension. So more important. Okay. So in this situation, when I appreciate all those students who are coming up with the right answer. So when we are like comparing between which relations are more important, always remember in this question it will always be private relations. Though both are important, though both are important, yet private relations are more important. Why private relations are more important? More. Why are they more important? Because these relations or these relationships are formed first. And when they are formed first, our ideals, ethics, values, okay, are established, are established by private relationships. Okay, so our like ideals or ethics or values, they are established by the private relationships. If private relationships are contorted, it will impact the wholesome personality, well-being and growth of a child into an adult. Okay, where does a child learn corruption or speaking lies? First and foremost, the child learns it from the family. If we are really like looking upon it, when we are talking about it, Vijay, difference between personal and private relation, beta, you should have been present at all times, no, in the class. You should not have jumped in the class randomly in between, right? When we started with it, didn't we start the chapter private is family and friends, public is in political life, professional life, social life, like in the extended. So why didn't you start the session when I like completed the break? You should have joined it in the right time. Then you would have avoided such miscellaneous sidey questions. Is a फर्जी क्वेश्चन तभी उठता है जब बच्चा डिसिप्लिन नहीं होता है. So please work on your discipline aspect. You know, I can sense and sniff the presence of a child by the nature of the question. Which part of the lecture was attended attentively and at what time the child was lost. Even by the choice of words and the nature of language, I sense that okay, this is like, you know, the child was little flimsy. I can sense when a concept is tough and it was not perceived, and when I have to explain or repeat it, I can sense that also, that yes, the concept was really tough, there were a lot of loaded jargons, it needs like, you know, better explanation, or I need to revisit the concept once again. So like always remember, the way your parents can sense, no, your personality, what you are doing, what kind of authenticity you are maintaining, it's very simple, it's very easy. It's all about being able to sniff through your word. Chicken egg causation, well Vivek, chicken egg causation literally means anda pehle aaya ki chidiya. Okay, you must have heard that, whether the hen came first or the egg. So you cannot determine which came first, because morality is guiding private relation and private relation is guiding morality. So which one is leading to what cannot be determined, because both are so thickly interdependent. All right. Now, getting back to the statement which I said, okay, when we are discussing about it, okay, so with respect to it, when we are talking about private relations are more important, let me give you the example, not only the possibility which all of you are aware that a child learns corruption from the family. Let me give it to you from one more perspective. You all must be aware of Aurangzeb, right? Everyone knows that Aurangzeb, like when he like annexed to power, when he like climbed up to power, he like put his father in exile, he killed his two brothers. Like Dara Shikoh was seen as the future leader by the common people, by the demos. He was seen as a very sensitive leader, as a very secular leader, but like the entire, like I would say, possibility of history was overturned by the violence exercised by Aurangzeb. That is a fact which everyone knows. Now, the thing is, when you read the history of Aurangzeb, it is then that you realize how he became the person who he became. When Aurangzeb was barely 7 years old, okay, this child, he saw that Shah Jahan like revolted against Jahangir. Shah Jahan, to grab power, he revolted against Jahangir because he was also supported by Noor Jahan. And you know the importance of kitchen cabinet and the kind of impact it had in the Mughal rule. So he took the leap of faith, Shah Jahan, he took the leap of faith and he rebelled against Jahangir. And when Jahangir sensed that my son is rebelling against me and he would put me in exile and he would try to grab power, what Jahangir did, he, like, you know, he took control of Dara Shikoh and Aurangzeb, two of the sons of Shah Jahan, and he kept them under his own exile as well as tutelage. He kept them. So young 7-year-old child is seeing that my father is rebelling against my grandfather. He is ready to put my grandfather under exile, and in severe condition there can be violence between my father and grandfather for the sake of power. Later on, when Shah Jahan actually climbed to power, he killed his another brother, and that is how Shah Jahan climbed to power. So the growing Aurangzeb is seeing that my father is killing my uncle, and that's perfectly fine to grab power. Right. Also, as Aurangzeb was growing up, he was put under strict, like, you know, we can say training of Islam. So he was thoroughly exposed to Islam. He was taught Quran Sharif and all the other ideals of Islam, and he was a very thorough student. He was also given the instructions of weaponry knowledge. And the boy is aware that we can eliminate brothers and we can put fathers in exile for the purpose of grabbing power. So this part of history, when you read, that is how you connect it with ethics. This is what is darshan and then dhyana, and then putting it in karma. That's how you attain wisdom. No book is going to do that for you. When you're reading things like from different subjects, chapters, you are going to pick information, and after picking the various aspects, you are supposed to weave the entire fabric. Okay. So when we are discussing about the very possibility associated with it, you need to do some meditation, Partha, because that's an exclusive problem. Okay. And that will impact your wholesome preparation related to other subjects also. So you have to reflect upon keywords, memorize keywords, listen to the explanation. That's an exclusive problem, let me tell you. And that's not going to keep you vigilant in the long run when we are talking about it. Okay. So when we are, yes, Akbar had fought with Mirza Hakim also, that's also there, but let us not meander here and there. Let us focus on this given dimension, that a young Aurangzeb, as this young child is growing up, in the process of growing up, he is getting exposed to different types of do's and don'ts which his family is exercising, and through that he is gaining his own set of ideals, values and standards, that what he can probably do to climb up to power. That's why our private relations play a very crucial role to shape us in the long run as an adult. Right? I hope all of you are understanding this. Yes? So our private relation, how we have behaved as a child, what experiences we have held as a child, shapes our possibility how we grow up and evolve as an adult. Fine. So I hope all of you are able to understand this when we are talking about which relations are more important. So I connected it with history. And history, something which all of you are aware of, like the tussle of power between Jahangir and Shah Jahan, and then further that of Aurangzeb. And this is how you exercise wisdom. You know facts. When you introspect about facts, you are able to connect facts with other kind of similar theories or concepts which are being discussed. This level of connectivity and fluidity is possible when you have wisdom. All right. Now, with respect to this, when we are talking about it, well, private relations are permanent. Again, Basia, as you are talking about it, that can be a like personal opinion. Private relations may or may not be permanent. How about a child who is a victim of rape by one's own father? How about a child whose mother is selling the child? How about a child who has been beaten up mercilessly, because of which the child broke some bone or created some disability, got some disability because the parent was too harsh? Ask those children with respect to quote unquote the idea of permanence. Okay. So generally, private relations have a more long term impact on an individual's personality, life, and existence. Beyond doubt, that is an uncontested fact. All right. But the idea of permanence, impermanence can be due to natural reasons, the elimination of family, or it can be due to social or some immediate reasons as well. Okay, that's also there. Now, with respect to this, as we are talking about it, what relations become more important from the perspective of a civil servant? I mean, when you are at home, it is your family, but when you are in office, it is your office. That's why when you are wearing your, like, let's say, official cap, you're not supposed to touch the feet even of your parents wearing the official cap. You're not supposed to greet your seniors wearing the official cap, because the official cap is the mark of the state. That's why you will see that when an officer is greeting the senior, takes off the cap and places it under the arm and then greets the senior. That's the basic decorum. So I hope you're getting some idea associated with it. Now, anyway, when we are discussing about this given dimension, let us like reflect upon it from this dimension of ethics in public relation. So what do we imply by this segment of ethics in public relation? So public relation can be associated with the three organizations of the government, like all of you are aware of it: the executive, the judiciary, the like legislature. Some child will be like, judiciary samajh mein nahi aa raha hai, so I'm just read. Okay, so judiciary and then legislature, right? It can be also associated with ethics in public relation. For a civil servant, can also be guided by the constitution, right? It can be also guided by the protocol. Protocols can be like governmental, or they can also be international. Ethics in public relation are formal. Basically, they are associated with formalized relationships. So formalized relationships. And when they are associated with formalized relationships, we will see that there will be dominance of reason. Dominance of reason. And when reason is dominating, okay, so when reason is dominating, it is then that we are able to understand that the public relations, when we are talking about it, they need to be like evolved, whereby our private sphere or our private lives is not something which is dominating the public life. Okay, so there should always be dominance of reason in this given situation. Okay, so and when there is dominance of reason, then you realize that these relations will become predictable. So relations are predictable because you'll follow the protocol. Okay, so relations are predictable. Follow the protocol. So when you are following the protocol, the relations become predictable, as simple as that. And when the relations are predictable, we all can see that because of this, we all can see that the possibility is associated with some legal and social obligations. When the relationships are formalized, then there are legal and social obligations which has to be followed at all times, right? So when we are talking about ethics in public relationship, so the ethics in public relation, it will be constantly be impacted. Okay, so probably I can just add something more, just a second. So we can say that ethics in public relations will be influenced by norms, values, laws, ethics, and reason. All this will prevail in a formal relation. This is what you have to conclude in your answer, right? As per the society, as per the profession, even the religion, other social contexts, all that has to be taken care of. All right. So, but in reality, okay, but in reality, both public and private, both public and private relations are linked together, linked together, and they are linked together on the basis of what? They are linked together on a, we can consider a relationship continuum or a bipolar continuum. Bipolar continuum. What do I imply by a bipolar continuum? See this, I'm drawing a diagram, you'll be able to connect with it. So when I'm talking about a bipolar continuum, there are two extreme ends. First is like, let us say, the private relation. So private relationships are more like the nibba nibbi relationship of modern day. Okay, noon roti khayenge, लेकिन वो क्या है, रिश्ता ऐसे ही निभाएंगे, something like that, right? So the same thing, you can connect it with Romeo and Juliet, where the relationship is extremely private and extremely intense. You're ready to even, like, sacrifice one's own life when we are talking about it, right? I think blue is perfectly fine on a white background, right? So please use different colors. That's just not needed. In your exam also, you cannot use multiple colors, Shubham. Okay. So, I mean, it's very easy at your age to use green, blue, black, pink kind of pens. Okay. I say this to my students that when you're writing the mains exam, at that time you will be using one pen, and being able to write through one pen and underline the keywords will be already a very big challenge because of the number of questions and the way you have to complete it. So get into the habit of not seeing a multicolored dimension until and unless we are using the dimension. Even using two pens is a luxury. Blue black pen is also a luxury. Swarufuddin. If you really see, students struggle to complete the word limit of the mains exam. So using two pens is actually a luxury. Being able to understand the question, interpret the question, recall the content, structure the answer, and write it down within like 6 minutes, because 1 minute goes in reading and interpreting the question. So 6 minutes, 150 words, or 11 minutes, or other 10 minutes, 150, like 250 words, it's a very big challenge. Okay. So that's what I would be suggesting. See the instruction given in the exam when you are writing mains, because generally it's blue and black, but some state commission exams, like for example Uttarakhand, 1 year made it very mandatory to use black pen, no other color. So students were suddenly like in a chaos that, oh, we are just carrying blue pen. So the principal of the, like, principal of the school in some prelims exam, like, made the staff run and get all black pens available in the market. So that's something like, before going for any exam, please read the instruction. Don't go by the standard protocol that you know. Okay, read the basic instructions, follow it accordingly. Now, So when we are talking about this given dimension, private relation and public relation, so in public relations we can see that public relation whereby there is a complete sense of anonymity, okay, and in private relation there is a complete sense of, I would say, integration. What ethical conduct can be made, can make these victimized people come out strong through these ill relations from their childhood? Jyoti, there are so many things which build people. It is not only the ruptures, damages, and frictions and challenges which a person undergoes. In the process of evolution, a person may read good piece of literature, may come across some compassionate people as a neighbor or as a grandparent or like as a teacher. Any person who can nurture the right way to think and reflect upon, and that is how, the issue is like taken care of when we are speaking of it. So it's not just one phenomena which is building a child's childhood. There are so many things which simultaneously build the possibility for a childhood. So, ma'am, is the private relationship informal? It is informal. Okay. Private relations are not formal. It is informal. Until and unless a person goes to court of law. And there, if the wife and husband start fighting in the court, the judge will scold them that this is not your four walls of the house. Please behave formally. Okay. Until and unless the person is not in a formal setup, then on an average, a person behaves informally in private relation. So that's what ethical conduct can make these between relation. Okay, fine. Jyoti's doubt has been resolved. Okay, now with respect to this, um, while performing the professional duty, if it is affecting one's private life, yeah, that is something which is generally asked in the case study. I'll show you a case study associated with it, and you will be reflecting upon it in terms of like how to go ahead with deciding in the given situation. The basic issue is that when people hear that, oh, my mother was threatened, my wife was threatened, people start feeling so wobbly and like crumbly. Why do you forget that you are also an officer and you have the system to protect you? If anything happens to you or your family, it will be a blot on the system, that the system failed to safeguard its officers. You are not a regular citizen. So stop thinking and behaving like a regular citizen, that what if my parents are threatened, my wife is threatened, or my husband is threatened, then what should I do? Should I prioritize private relation or public relation? Oh, in that situation, just prioritize rule of law. Someone is like inflicting the rule of law, someone is not obeying the rule of law and is ready to breach it, whereby even your family is involved, and you have the law and order in your favor. You are also an officer, you have the system supporting you, so you can enact even in a far more I would say assertive manner for that matter. Okay. So is there what okay ma'am, like army men in East India Company had private relation with peasants and villages. Well, that's just like another example. All right, now, so with respect to this, I'm not getting what type of questions I get in the chats. I have no idea how the chats are like arriving to you, Krishna. Okay, I'm not the person who is technically capable to explain what you are receiving. In Jyoti Maurya's case, okay, Jyoti Maurya's case is not something unique that should surprise you. It just got sensationalized. I mean, are you people not aware of such facts happening every once in a while? It used to happen in my generation, my seniors' generation, that people used to go to Labasna and do settings for their marriage. It was more like a marriage bureau, whereby people used to find people of their cadre, their rank. Like, it was more like matchmaking as per the suitability of their rank and cadre and this and that. That is what was observed. And don't we see that every now and then, like in our times also, my seniors, or I would say that my batchmates experience this thing, that if the girl is getting selected, she is kicking the guy out of the life. If the guy is getting selected, kicking the girl out of the life. Quite a rampant phenomenon, quite a normal phenomena. So much of heartbreak happening in and around. One of the, 2008 All India under 50 rank girl, she was in a relationship with another guy, and when she got selected, she kicked him out. I'm not taking the names because it will be unethical. And what happened, that the guy was so heartbroken, and he was the one who was preparing notes, helping her out, supporting her. And we were like, this girl, I mean, this is like sheer cheating. But I mean, this is what she was being very professional about her selection and about her, I would say, orientation. The guy, next year again, he appeared for the mains and he failed in the English compulsory paper. He was a Hindi medium student, failed in the English compulsory paper. He took 1 year's break, again appeared for the exam, and it was probably 2011 or so, and he was under 10, All India under 10. Okay. So there have been so many things which have unfolded post globalization, whereby people are more materialistic, more individualistic, more career oriented, more oriented to their own private concerns when we are talking about it. Nihar, with respect to Goodreads, the website I had shared. Why did you type the question and evaporate in the thin air? I had shared how to use the website and which kind of quotations should be picked. If you are not attentive at all time, this is what will happen, that when your questions are addressed, when your queries are addressed, you are not listening to it. That's what you can understand. Okay. So you can also see that after, so Jyoti Maria is just a symbolic case. This is something which is unfolding post globalization. It is happening in corporate sector. It is now happening in the in this public sector with respect to civil servants and bureaucrats. People are opportunists, and if the relationships are not rock solid, based on the foundation of respect, harmony, interdependence, adjustments and adaptations, till that time they cannot survive. Okay. It doesn't matter whether people leave each other for the sake of property or is it for the sake of rank. I mean, after all, it's just a job. But how come the job is like larger than life for an individual? Because the person considered it larger than life, right? So that's what. And that is also something which all of you can consider, connected to globalization, how globalization impacts family and marriage, how it impacts the ideals, the ethos, the values of a society. Okay. So globalization will encourage materialism, individualism. With rise in materialism, consumerism, individualism, the ethos of sacrifice, the ethos of harmonizing, the ethos of compromise in private relations will slowly and steadily start fading. The traditional impact of joint family, kinship relations, glorifying marriage as a sacrosanct relationship will start fading. When you start treating it more like a contractual relation, the moment you are through with the contract or the conditions of the contract are not meeting your aspirations, you will call it off. So this is the formal way of reflecting upon a current situation, not gossiping about it. Formal way of connecting it with respect to the GS chapters which are there in the syllabus. Okay. So with respect to this, when we are talking about it, um, I'm unable to understand that, Shubham. I think that none of the students can see each other's chat as far as I can sense. So it's not your concern only, Shubham. You just focus on your question and the explanation that I'm giving. So, how to write mains answers? First, learn the concept and the theory, then get into writing the mains answers. Every once in a while, I'm explaining, like consequences, which I was discussing, no? Positive consequences of ethics. So, how you go ahead with it. So, first and foremost, you talk about relevance of ethics, how it is shaping human life and behavior. I gave 2, 3 sentences. Then, positive consequences with respect to individual, society, organization, country, international. Remember all that? So you have the content. A bit of practice reading it, reflecting what needs to be prioritized and written, and then like practicing it is something which can create or reproduce. All right. Now, but these cases or any other unethical action impacts another life as well. Yes, definitely. It sets standards for the society. Your generation, I mean, I gave you the example of 2008 and 2010 batch seniors who are like 15, 17 years senior to you, right? Doing the same thing what you are seeing Jyoti Maurya doing. So she's just a symbolic person. So many people are indulging in such acts. So what happens? Jyoti Maurya must have seen some seniors doing that. Her seniors must have seen some people doing that. Right. So it is a phenomena which has caught up because of this, I would say, individualism, like taking a grab over private relation, our private choices. Anyway, here getting back, so private relation and public relations, when we are speaking of it, we all can connect it with the Jyoti Maurya kaun hai, forget it, who is she? I explained the entire like Ramayana. You are asking who is the Sita, so it's perfectly all right. So when we are talking about this given dimension, yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem, that there will be a lot of repercussions which the society will be handling because of these cases, because people who are not morally strong, or who are not having a lot of confidence in their own child, or in their own sibling, or in their own partner, they will be the people who will be acting flimsily, and other women will lose opportunity. But the truth is, anyone can behave in such a manner, a man or a woman, isn't it? Anyway, getting back, so in terms of public relation, when we are discussing about it, in public relation, we can connect it with the old school bureaucracy, or the Weberian bureaucracy. In syllabus, Max Weber was asked in GS paper for 2013 or 14 mains. There was a question associated with Max Weber. So do not think that I'm introducing sociology here. Max Weber is a thinker who's in sociology optional also, he's in public administration optional also, but in your ethics paper, there is Western philosophers and thinkers. Hence, the possibility was asked there as well. What is bipolar continuum? Well, Nilesh, bipolar means two extreme. Bi means two. Polar means there are two poles, two extreme ends. Continuum means when the two poles are not isolated, they have a sense of continuity. So let me explain, you will understand how they have a continuity. Okay, now, so in public relation, the Weberian bureaucracy, which like you can consider, deals with the segment, the Weberian bureaucracy, which deals with this given insight, or this given segment, that the bureaucrat should be a formal group, or a formal organization, which is having an impersonal relationship from the people, not jesting, not talking, maintaining a distance, okay, only sticking to rules and regulations, abiding by rules and regulations at all times. So the traditional explanation of bureaucracy, or the traditional definition of bureaucracy, which is also associated with Weber's explanation, Weberian bureaucracy, please understand this, is associated as an example for hardcore, like public relation, how public relations are highly formal, highly distanced, highly, like, dissociated when we are speaking of it. Now let us bring it little closer. How can we bring it closer? So it becomes closer when we are talking about post Weberian bureaucracy. In post Weberian bureaucracy, it is suggested that bureaucrats should not distance themselves from the masses. Please pay attention at all times, people. This is something very important I'm explaining to all of you. So, in post Weberian bureaucracy, it is expected that people should not distance, the bureaucrats should not distance themselves from the larger masses. The bureaucrats should be friendly to the people, they should be compassionate to the people, they should once in a while be open to interact with the people informally, or within the department also. Okay, for example, for solving a critical criminal case, there is a possibility that a police officer who is supposed to maintain secrecy at all times may call up his ex senior who was there in another department, maybe crime branch or something. So this person has moved to cyber crime, so the person is calling up, like, his senior from crime branch, and saying that, sir, I learned so many things under you in past 5 years, sir, there is a cliched case, can we meet for it? I mean, though I know that you're not assigned, but maybe I'm unable to catch hints and unable to solve the case. Maybe some suggestions that you give me will open my eyes and perspective regarding how to solve the case. Okay. So with respect to this, suppose the like bureaucrat is consulting the senior bureaucrat and meeting in some like public cafe or something like that, and discussing the basics of the case. So this is something which is what post Weberian bureaucracies permitting, allowing, encouraging, but Weberian bureaucracy will not. Again, in the similar manner, Weberian bureaucracy will be like the bureaucrat should always have formal rules, regulations, should always have an impersonal relationship, should distance from the common public. Whereas the post-Weberian bureaucracy will say that, oh, the police should be like, the friend and the guide of the people. Like, for example, a police, like you could see in the COVID times, the police was reaching out to the senior citizens who were isolated, right? And their children were staying in another city, so the police used to go and ask about their well-being, how they are, whether they have medicines or not. Okay, if there was birthday, the police even went and cut cake, if you can recall all that. So when we are talking about the post-Weberian bureaucracy, post and after Weberian bureaucracy, there's no confusion, it is one and the same. Post ka matlab hi hota hai after, shubham. Okay, post means after, later. Okay, so when we are talking about post-Weberian bureaucracy, means the later day bureaucracy, means today's bureaucracy. How today's bureaucracy is following a different set of rules and regulations compared to what traditional bureaucracy ought to. So the traditional bureaucracy was more formal. That's why you can see Weberian bureaucracy, have marked it over here. And when we are talking about the post-Weberian bureaucracy, we are marking it over here. So it is moving, no? You can see it's moving towards what? More towards going informal with the common masses. In the similar manner, you can see Romeo and Juliet, hardcore, like emotional relation, private relation, completely within themselves, not even sharing about their emotion to their friends, family, etc. Now, a level is whereby, like, some people say that, oh, my friends are like my family, and they are sharing everything related to their relationship chaos or dilemmas to their friends. Even more, there can be situations like, for example, if you have watched this Netflix series called Decoupled. Okay, so in which, I'm just giving it as an example. So, for example, we can say that in the, like, couple who are, like, staying together, but the emotional warmth is gone. So staying together, but no more warm. Like, there is no emotion left between the couple, but they are staying together because of the comfort, that who is going to adjust to a new person now, make adjustments related to a new kind of, like, individual. It is so tedious, right? So when we are discussing about this given possibility associated with uh, in Decoupled, what did they show? So they showed that there is a writer, a celebrity author, and he has a huge bungalow and in a plush location of the city, and the wife is also in working in multinational corporation. They have a daughter, and they are through with the relation, they want a divorce, but they, neither of them wants to leave the house. They want to continue living in the same house, under the same roof, the daughter being raised in the same environment. So the only difference that will happen is that the couple can get their own respective partners. They will take two wings of the same house, and they will own two different bedrooms and two different flanks of the same house, because they are so comfortable in the house, and they are so comfortable in the setup, and they want that the daughter is also raised together, and they expect that their partners will be smart enough to understand, okay, even if they are staying together, there's no emotive romantic relationship left between the couple. So that is something which you can talk about when you are talking about private relation moving towards public. Even like in tier 2 towns, or like you can see in little townships, that can happen, that after 10 or 20 years of marriage or 30 years of marriage, sometimes couples, they hardly are talking to each other, they are hardly being kind or nice to each other. Some people are like, how come they got married and how come they have kids? So they are just living with each other for the sake of adjustment. Like, the wife is cooking the meal, presenting it to the husband is getting salary, giving the money to her, but other than that, there is no emotive connect between them. They are not sharing a happy space, or they are not like cracking a joke or giggling or watching a movie together, or sharing any like we can say private time. They are like, oh, let this person be, and I least care about this person. And the same attitude is with the partner, but they don't want to risk their public image by looking for other partners, right? So in that situation also, the kind of coldness that has entered into the relationship leads that private relation move more towards public. It's more like a formal engagement, formal contractual adjustment, and less of an emotive relation. That's why it is continuum, bipolar continuum. Bipolar, two poles, private, public. And there is a continuity that can happen even in a bus or a train. You can see that people, they travel like, suppose people are traveling in train, they befriend the neighbors, they become friends, they start talking. As they are deboarding the train, they start exchanging numbers, touching, like, the younger boy touching the elder man's feet and seeking blessings. And like, over the time period, they establishing a relation, becoming like, phone pals or pen pals or something like that. So what happened? It started initially as a public relation, but as the boy was deboarding, he started calling him uncle, he started calling him beta, and then they shared about like who are there in the family, what are their ideas, which books have inspired them, what places they have visited. So they share a very candid, like we can say, candid moment and a candid relationship in that train journey. And that exclusivity survives, as maybe when they are visiting each other's towns, they are meeting each other, or maybe sometimes inviting each other to their homes for food or maybe for stay, something like that. So the public relation slowly and steadily started slipping into private relation. That is why it is a continuum. That's why saying that a completely public and completely private relation exists, it's not like that in society. That's why I said in reality they both are linked together. Public and private relation are linked together by a continuum. Okay. So, distinguishing the two nowadays, especially in the era of globalization, has become too tough. It is too vague or ambiguous to distinguish the two in watertight compartments. Probably I should write it down that in the era of globalization, distinguishing the two in watertight compartments is not possible. Okay, it is not possible. It is very difficult, or it is too vague to do so. Too vague and ambiguous. Too vague and ambiguous to think to do so. Think to do so. So we have friends on Facebook, Instagram, or different other public platforms. We don't interact with them, right, very regularly. And with few of them whom we didn't know, random strangers we befriended. And there is a deep sense of respect and connectivity that you may develop related to them. So that's what, when we are talking about it. So, yes, yes, that does happen once in a while, Vijay. So a stranger becoming strong relation and a relation becoming stranger in this bipolar continuum. So very true. That's what. So I hope all of you are able to connect this public and private relation, right? So the public and post-Weberian, B is for bureaucracy. Okay, B is for bureaucracy pile. So that's what. So I know PayPal, not phone pal. No problem. Pal was for friend. Okay. No problem if you don't know. Earlier there were pen pals in earlier times when phones were not there. And internationally, people used to exchange their addresses to become pen pals and write letters to each other, send pictures to each other. That is how two civilizations, cultures, or people belonging to two different countries used to interact. There were magazines who used to publish the address of pen pals. You could get your address published and someone could get his or her address published. So a lot of people exchanged a lot of letters and became amazing friends by being pen pals. Okay. That was another era. That is, I'm talking about like late 1980s, early 1990s. I've seen that happening in 1990s. Okay, so that is before the phones arrived. That was my school days. So a few of my friends had amazing pen pals from different parts of the world, from Australia and from US. So it was very different. So ambiguous means vague, something which is not clear. All right. अच्छा हाँ जल्दी में M छूट गया. Thank you for highlighting this. That ambiguous में M छूट गया है. Yes. So it's AM. Yeah, happy? All right. So when you all are able to understand this given dimension, so we can like further reflect upon this given dimension, difference between public and private relation. This is nothing but just a quick read. Okay. When you are just giving a quick read to this given dimension, you will be able to connect with it. The difference between public and private relation. It's just certain keywords like private relation, they are inherited. It's not something that we are choosing, right? So it is by default that we are born in a family, and that is how we get into a private relation on an average. Love marriage versus arranged marriage is the only dimension whereby in private relation the component of choice can be exercised, but on an average there is not enough space or choice. Once the marriage is concluded, whether love or marriage, again it becomes like dimensions associated with this given segment when we are talking about it. So decouped instead of decoupled. Oh, the TV series name was Decoupled, so that's why I'm saying it was not decouped, it was decoupled. I remember it. Okay. Anyway, with respect to public relation, they too are inherited with or without choice. So here you can see hierarchy. Okay, hierarchy of power. So like hierarchy of power, for example, like you can think of an IG and then niche dig, and then you have like ACP, and then maybe you can think of like an SI, or then you can think of constable. So you cannot choose who you want to become. It is your rank which is determined, and on the basis of your rank, like accordingly you shall be promoted. So that's why it is also without choice. Once you are settled in a rank, until unless you are not qualifying for some other exam or intra departmental thing, you are stuck in that given situation. How Romeo and Juliet affected by public relation? Only when the public started interfering with their thought. But when we are talking about it, most private, that will be associated with any couple. Okay, whereby you are not discussing or you are keeping it as a very secretive relationship. श्रेया, अब इसमें तुम लोग बाल की खाल मत निकालो, कॉन्सेप्ट समझ जाओ. दैट इज एज सिंपल एज दैट. मतलब जिन चीजों को समझना है उसमें बुद्धि नहीं लगाना है. जहाँ इंट्रोस्पेक्शन एंड ध्यान चाहिए वहां ध्यान नहीं लगेगा. लेकिन रोमियो जूलियट कैसे हो गया भाई इतना ज्यादा प्राइवेट, यही नहीं समझ में आ रहा है. जहां नहीं दिमाग लगाना, जस्ट लीव, एंड वेयर देयर इज इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ रिफ्लेक्शन, यूज इट. यस. सो हाँ, मेन बात तो यही है, बात वो भी है. ठीक है. ऑल राइट, नाउ लेट्स सी. सो प्राइवेट रिलेशंस, दे आर कन्फाइंड टू स्मॉल ग्रुप ऑफ पीपल, and when we are talking about public relations, it will be associated with large number of people because organization will be involved. Again, we can see in private relation there will be imperfections, but still it is, mind the word relatively, it is relatively permanent compared to a public relation, but it's not that it is permanent at all times. I've given you the explanation. And again, with respect to it, when we are talking about like public relation, if someone is disgruntled, the person may leave, may quit upon the job, right? Again, in private relation we can see that you get intimacy, loyalty, love, affection, whereas in public relation we can see that you get respect, attention, power, authority. So the outcome of public and private relation is also different. In private relation, the outcome will be based on intimacy, loyalty, love, okay, and affection, whereas in public relation the outcome of enjoying a public relation will lead to respect, attention, power, authority, okay, or materialistic benefits like better salary or some extra emolument, etc. Right? Again, over here you can see in private relation you usually involve with people sharing similarity with you, similar value system, like we share our value system with our parents, our siblings, to a certain extent our friends also, right? But in public relation you have to deal with people having different temperament, and that's how you try to adjust with them. Again, in private relation you can see that your duties are voluntary, they are self imposed and informal. Means like the mother can one day say that, okay, go and get some like peas from the market, okay, bazaar jao, matar leke aa jao. Or someday she can say, fill the bottles for the fridge, so fill the bottles from the RO and put it in the fridge. So there is no formal set of duties. Different days you can be performing different things, jostling between different things, whereas in public relation the duties are external, they are imposed, and they are formal. You don't change or you don't flip with it, okay. Again, in private relation, your action is guided by internal locus of control. ILOC is there, right? Whereas in like public relation, it is external locus of control. You are guided by the law of the land. You are guided by the rules and regulations associated with the profession per se. Should we balance the public and private relation? Definitely, Vijay. So as you can remember, Adler had said that. Yaad hai? I had discussed this very dimension over here with respect to Adler. So you had to connect it with this given dimension that Adler spoke of three lives, that professional, social, and personal should be balanced. Then only good relations can be established. And this is something which I had explained to all of you, right? So that's something which you are supposed to connect with, right? So that's the answer to your question. Fine. So link between ethics and ethics in public and private relation, I have already drawn the bipolar continuum and explained to all of you. Okay. So the separation between public and private life, should it be separate? I have given certain cue points over here for all of you to read. And there is also like, so this is just a little bit of dimension associated with like public and private relation, that are they both one and the same or are they separate? So a bit of dimension, thought provoking dimension is written over here. How we connect our politicians, if they are like family men in the church, they are coming, like in America you can see they go for the like Sunday mass. So when they see that, oh, the person has come with the family, they are like, you know, having a very happy family. So you consider that if the family is good. Thank you, Asma, for the first question of the session. I didn't see your any question in the entire session except the question, when will the class get over? You know, I am more in hurry to leave, because the more delay I will create, the more problem it will be for me to, like, you know, get up early in the morning. I have to get up at 4:15. So thanks for your kindness, but meanwhile I'll explain the concept and then head ahead for like wrapping up the session. So here, when we are speaking of this, but Asma, please participate in other aspects of the class, like raising doubts or giving examples. That will be so amazing. I remember students with their names, whether I speak it out or not. So that's what. Yeah, I mean, like, I've taken the responsibility, so I have to fulfill it. Health, yes, another 15 days it will be little like on the rider, but okay. So separation of, like, we can consider this public and private life sometimes is not taken. So when you see that like, you know, a presidential candidate is portraying himself or herself as a family person, you're like, oh, the person is nice to the family, so will be nice to the state, nice to the people, and vice versa also. Sometimes we distance political candidates private life from public life. We don't let the two impact each other. So there is some reflection related to it. I want all of you to read it. It's just a, like, you know, little 3-4 pages slide, so you just read it and finish it, so that you can raise your questions accordingly. So state, can it encroach in personal sphere? There are some basic questions which I have raised, and after reading these 4 slides, as you will be raising your questions tomorrow towards the beginning of the session, I'll explain this to all of you, and I'll start with the next segment, that is values. So tomorrow we are going to start with ethics and values. Okay. So just read the 4 slides which are associated with public and private relation. All right. Finally, there is this question when we are talking about values given by Confucius. That is, all human beings are fundamentally good in their nature. If uncorrupted by external circumstances, their actions will be morally correct. So, discuss the role of family, society, and educational institutions in this context, because in your syllabus it is inculcation of values by family, society, and educational institutions. So, we'll be talking about it with respect to this given sub-segment tomorrow. All right, so just read the 4 slides and come, so that if you have doubt, you can just ask. All right. So this is what are the PPTs enough? Kaushik, you should have attended yesterday's class. The first 1 hour was dedicated regarding how to study, what to prepare, and how to go ahead with it. I will be taking the same class on 12th of August. Please attend 12th of August weekend batch, the first 1 hour. You'll get an answer to how to go about with approaching this subject. Cannot be explained in 2 minutes. Okay. So this is what. All right then. Thank you. Thanks a lot, all of you. Take care and good night.